She wasn't supposed to be on the third floor at 2:47 in the afternoon. Janae Washington had learned in her 6 months working at the Hartwell estate that the third floor belonged to Mr. and Mrs. Hartwell alone, a territory marked not by signs, but by the weight of unspoken rules. But Mrs. Hartwell had specifically asked her that morning, her pale fingers trembling slightly as she handed over the key, her voice barely above a whisper. "The bedroom, please, before he gets home." And Janae had seen something in those gray eyes that made her stomach clench, something that looked like drowning. The hallway stretched before her now, thick carpet swallowing her footsteps, late October light slicing through floor to ceiling windows. She carried fresh linens against her chest like a shield, her heartbeat loud in her ears. The master bedroom door stood slightly ajar. That's when she heard it. Not a scream. Something worse. A whimper, thin and animal, followed by a man's voice, low and controlled. "I said hold still." Janae froze. Every instinct screamed at her to turn around, to go back down the service stairs, to forget she'd heard anything. She'd spent 29 years learning to be invisible, learning that survival meant keeping your head down and your mouth shut. 3 years ago, speaking up had cost her everything. A daughter she was still fighting to get back, a mistake she'd carried like a stone in her chest ever since. But that sound, that broken, desperate sound. Her hand moved before her mind could stop it, pushing the door open another inch. The bedroom was a study in cream and gold, enormous and pristine, the kind of space that appeared in magazines. Afternoon light poured through silk curtains, illuminating every terrible detail. Mrs. Hartwell, Vivian, sat on the edge of the four-poster bed in a slip, her back to the door. She was shaking, and standing behind her, one hand gripping her shoulder, the other holding something small and silver, was a man Janae had never seen before. Not Mr. Hartwell. This man was younger, thinner, with slicked back hair and a smile that made Janae's skin crawl. He was pressing what looked like a syringe against Vivian's neck, and Vivian was crying, silent tears streaming down her face, her body rigid with terror. "This will be so much easier if you just cooperate," the man was saying, his tone almost gentle. "Mr. Hartwell will be very pleased. 2 more days of this, and you'll be ready for the facility. No more making scenes. No more embarrassing questions. Just peace and quiet." Janae's breath caught. Her mind raced, fragments snapping together. The way Vivian had seemed increasingly confused over the past weeks. The way she'd started forgetting conversations, losing time. The way Mr. Hartwell had started telling the staff his wife was unwell, that she needed rest and privacy. The private nurse who'd appeared last week, stern-faced and cold. This wasn't a nurse. This was something else entirely. The man's thumb moved toward the plunger. "Don't scream." The words left Janae's mouth before she could think, loud and clear, shattering the terrible quiet. Both figures whipped around. The man's face twisted with surprise and anger. Vivian's eyes went wide, a flash of desperate hope breaking through the fog of fear. "Who the hell are you?" the man demanded, but his voice had lost its smoothness. The syringe wavered. Janae stepped into the room, her heart hammering so hard she thought she might pass out. She had no plan, no weapon, no authority, just her body in the doorway and her voice, finally, after so long, refusing to stay silent. "I'm someone who's calling the police," she said, her hand already reaching for the phone in her apron pocket. "Right now." The man lunged. Everything happened too fast and too slow at once. He released Vivian and came at Janae with shocking speed, the syringe raised like a knife. Janae stumbled backward into the hallway, her phone clattering to the floor. She saw Vivian rise from the bed, her face transforming from paralyzed fear to something fierce and burning. Vivian grabbed the crystal lamp from the nightstand and swung it with both hands. The base connected with the back of the man's head with a sickening crack. He went down hard, sprawling across the threshold, the syringe skittering across the hardwood. For a moment, everything was silent except for their ragged breathing. Then Vivian looked up at Janae, and their eyes met across the body of the man who'd tried to destroy her. 2 women from different worlds, connected by a moment of terrible clarity. "Thank you," Vivian whispered, her voice hoarse and real and more alive than Janae had ever heard it. "Thank you for seeing me." Janae's hands were shaking as she picked up her phone. Her whole body was shaking. But she dialed 911, and when the operator answered, Her voice was steady. "I need to report an attempted assault," she said. "And I think I need to report something much bigger than that." Behind her, Vivian sank to the floor, her back against the bed, and started to cry. Not the silent, swallowed tears from before, but deep, racking sobs that sounded like breaking free. Janae sat down beside her, right there on the expensive carpet, and took her hand. Neither of them let go until the sirens came. What would you have done if you witnessed something you weren't supposed to see? Would you risk everything to help a stranger, or would fear keep you silent? 7 hours earlier, Janae had stood in the pre-dawn darkness of her studio apartment in Dorchester, staring at the photograph taped to her bathroom mirror. Destiny. 4 years old in the picture, 6 now, living with Janae's mother in Atlanta because the state of Massachusetts had decided Janae Washington wasn't fit to be a parent. One mistake. One moment of trusting the wrong person, of having the wrong boyfriend at the wrong time, of being too scared to speak up when the police came asking questions. Accessory after the fact, they'd called it. She'd done 8 months, lost custody, and spent the 2 years since trying to prove she'd changed. The lawyers cost money she didn't have. The supervised visits cost money she didn't have. Everything cost money she didn't have, which was why she was standing in the dark at 5 in the morning, preparing to take the bus and then the train to Beacon Hill, to clean the mansions of people who had more money than she could imagine and less happiness than they deserved. She touched Destiny's face in the photo. "Soon, baby," she whispered. "Mama's coming for you soon." Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "She asked about you again yesterday. Said she made you a drawing at school. When are you coming?" Janae closed her eyes against the sting. Thanksgiving, maybe. If she could save enough for the bus ticket. If she could get the time off. If. Her whole life was made of ifs now. A bridge she was building one plank at a time, hoping it would hold long enough to bring her daughter home. She put on her uniform. Navy blue polo shirt, black slacks, comfortable shoes. The uniform of invisibility. She'd learned to move through the world like a ghost. There but not there, useful but not noticed. It was safer that way. Safer to be no one. The commute took 90 minutes. She watched the city transform through the train windows as they moved from her neighborhood toward Beacon Hill, buildings getting taller and cleaner, people getting whiter and better dressed. By the time she climbed the hill to the Hartwell estate, the sun was just starting to break over Boston Harbor, turning the brick townhouses gold. The Hartwell house wasn't just a house. It was a statement, 5 stories of federal architecture with black shutters and a garden that required 2 full-time groundskeepers. Mr. Hartwell had made his fortune in pharmaceuticals. Hartwell Industries, a name that appeared on half the prescription bottles in America. He was 52, handsome in that sharp-edged way of men who'd never been told no, and he treated the staff with the distant politeness of someone who didn't quite see them as real. Janae entered through the service entrance, punching her code into the keypad. The kitchen smelled like coffee and fresh bread. Patricia, the head of household, was already there, her gray hair pulled into its usual tight bun. "Morning, Janae. Mrs. Hartwell requested you specifically today for the 3rd floor. Janae paused in the middle of hanging up her coat. "The 3rd floor? I thought we weren't supposed to." "I know." Patricia's face was carefully neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. "She asked for you by name. Said she wanted you to change the linens in the master bedroom. She seemed quite insistent. Is everything okay?" Patricia looked away, busying herself with papers on her clipboard. "Mrs. Hartwell has been unwell lately. Mr. Hartwell says she's been having some difficulties. Memory issues, confusion. There's a private nurse now, did you know? Started last week." Janae had seen her. A woman named Miss Brennan, tall and severe, who moved through the house like she owned it, who always seemed to be hovering near Mrs. Hartwell with pills and tea and quiet instructions. Something about her had made Janae uneasy from the first day. "The nurse is here in the mornings," Patricia continued. "But she has appointments on Tuesday afternoons. That's when Mrs. Hartwell, well, she seems more herself on Tuesday afternoons." Their eyes met, and Janae saw something there, a question Patricia wouldn't ask out loud. "Do you see it too? Do you notice that something's wrong?" "I'll take care of the 3rd floor," Janae said quietly. She spent the morning on the 2nd floor, dusting and vacuuming rooms that barely looked lived in. The Hartwells had no children. Mr. Hartwell spent most of his time at the office or traveling. Mrs. Hartwell, from what Janae could tell, spent most of her time alone. Janae had only spoken to her a handful of times in 6 months. Mrs. Hartwell was younger than her husband by almost 20 years, 33 to his 52, with pale blonde hair and gray eyes and a way of moving through the house like she was floating, like she wasn't quite tethered to the ground. She was beautiful in that fragile, expensive way, like a piece of art you weren't allowed to touch. But lately, something had changed. Mrs. Hartwell seemed different. Vaguer. More distant. Janae had walked past the sitting room last week and heard her on the phone, her voice confused and frightened. "I don't remember that, Mother. I don't remember saying that. Did I really? I don't. I can't seem to hold on to things anymore." At noon, Janae ate her lunch in the staff room, a sandwich she'd packed from home. The other members of the household staff filtered in and out. Thomas, one of the groundskeepers. Maria, who did the cooking. They talked about ordinary things, but Janae caught the glances they exchanged when Miss Brennan's name came up, the way they lowered their voices when discussing Mrs. Hartwell. "Heard her crying last night," Maria said quietly. 2 in the morning, I was getting water from the kitchen and I heard it coming from upstairs. Sobbing like her heart was breaking. Then I heard Mr. Hartwell's voice, real calm and cold, saying she needed to take her medicine and go to sleep. "Maybe she is sick," Thomas offered, but he didn't sound convinced. "My aunt had early onset dementia, started in her 30s. Maybe it's something like that." "Maybe," Maria said, but she didn't sound convinced either. At 2 o'clock, Janae saw Miss Brennan leave through the front door, climbing into a black sedan with tinted windows. She watched from a second-floor window as the car pulled away. The house felt different immediately, like something had lifted. At 2:30, she was dusting the second-floor hallway when she heard footsteps above her. Light and quick, almost running. Then Mrs. Hartwell appeared at the top of the main staircase, her hand gripping the banister. She was dressed in a silk blouse and linen pants, barefoot, her hair loose around her shoulders. Her eyes were wide and clear and desperate. "You," she said, looking directly at Janae. "You're Janae, aren't you? Patricia told me your name." "Yes, ma'am. I need your help." Mrs. Hartwell descended a few steps, her voice urgent and low. "I need someone I can trust. Someone who isn't. Someone who doesn't work for him." Janae's heart started to pound. "Mrs. Hartwell, if you're in trouble." "I can't talk now. He has cameras. Not in the bedroom. That's the only place, but everywhere else. He watches." She descended further, and Janae could see her hands were shaking. "I'm not crazy. I know how I must seem, but I'm not crazy. They're doing something to me. The shots Miss Brennan gives me, the pills, they make me forget. They make me fog. But on Tuesday afternoons, when she's gone, I have a few hours when my head clears. A few hours when I can think." She reached the bottom of the stairs and pressed something into Janae's hand. "A key. The bedroom. 3rd floor. There's a locked drawer in my vanity. I need you to see what's inside. I need someone else to know, to witness. Because if I try to tell anyone myself, he'll just say I'm delusional. He's been building that narrative for weeks. The forgetful wife. The unstable wife. But if someone else sees." "Mrs. Hartwell, I don't think I should. Please." The word was raw, stripped of all pretense. "I'm asking you as one woman to another, not as your employer. As someone who's drowning and needs someone to see her go under. Please." Janae looked into those gray eyes and saw herself. Saw destiny. Saw every time she'd needed someone to believe her, to see her, to choose her when it would have been easier to look away. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Mrs. Hartwell's shoulders sagged with relief. "He's at the office until 6. Miss Brennan won't be back until 4. You have time. Just be careful." And Janae, her hand squeezed Janae's arm. "Thank you. Thank you for seeing me." Then she turned and climbed back up the stairs, disappearing like a ghost. Janae stood in the hallway, the key heavy in her palm, her mind racing. Every survival instinct she had told her to put the key down, to walk away, to not get involved. She'd learned that lesson the hard way. Getting involved, trusting your gut, doing the right thing, those were luxuries for people who had safety nets. She had destiny to think about. She had her record to think about. She couldn't afford another mistake. But she thought of Vivian's eyes. She thought of her own daughter. She thought of all the times people had walked past her when she needed help, had chosen not to see, had decided she wasn't worth the risk. At 2:45, she gathered fresh linens from the supply closet. At 2:46, she climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. At 2:47, She stood in front of the master bedroom door, her hand on the key, making a choice that would change everything. She opened the door. The bedroom was exactly as she'd imagined it would be. Enormous, elegant, decorated in soft creams and golds that probably cost more than she made in a year. The bed was perfectly made. Everything was in its place. A room that looked like a sanctuary but felt like a tomb. She moved to the vanity, a delicate French antique with a large mirror and several small drawers. One had a keyhole. She inserted the key with trembling fingers and turned it. The drawer opened. Inside were papers, medical documents, and as Janae pulled them out, her blood ran cold. Psychiatric evaluation forms, signed by a Dr. Raymond Chun at a private facility in Vermont. Commitment papers, partially filled out, awaiting only a final signature. A diagnosis, acute psychotic episode with paranoid features, recommendation for immediate inpatient treatment. The date on the documents was 4 days away. Saturday. Underneath was a syringe, and used, and several small vials. Janae picked one up and read the label, haloperidol. She didn't know what it was, but she knew it wasn't vitamins. She pulled out her phone and quickly took photos of everything, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the device steady. That's when she heard it. The voice from the hallway, moving closer. I said hold still. She shoved the papers back into the drawer, pocketed her phone, and grabbed the linens. Her mind was screaming at her to run, but her feet carried her toward the sound, toward the danger, toward the moment that would define everything that came after. She pushed open the door and found Vivian on the bed, tears streaming down her face, a strange man with a syringe pressed to her neck. The moment stretched and snapped. The moment that would save them both or destroy them. The moment when Janae Washington, who'd spent years learning to be invisible, stepped into the light and refused to look away. Don't scream, she said. And everything changed. The man on the floor groaned, his hand moving to the back of his head. Blood seeped between his fingers, dark against the pale hardwood. Vivian still held the lamp base, her knuckles white, her whole body trembling like a wire pulled too tight. We need to tie him up, Janae said, her voice steadier than she felt. Before he wakes up fully. Vivian nodded, moving like she was underwater. She dropped the lamp and went to the closet, pulling out silk ties, designer scarves, things that cost more than Janae's monthly rent. They worked quickly, binding the man's wrists behind his back, his ankles together. He was stirring, muttering incoherently, but he wasn't fighting yet. Janae's phone was still in her hand. She'd already dialed 911. The operator's voice came through, tinny and calm. 911, what's your emergency? I'm at 447 Marlborough Street in Beacon Hill. A man just tried to drug Mrs. Hartwell, Vivian Hartwell. He had a syringe. He's been posing as medical staff. I think there's a plan to commit her against her will. We've restrained him, but we need police here now. The operator's tone shifted, becoming more alert. Are you or Mrs. Hartwell injured? No. But he is. Mrs. Hartwell hit him with a lamp. Self-defense. He was trying to inject her with something. Officers are on the way. Stay on the line with me. Is the attacker conscious? Barely. He's tied up. He can't hurt anyone. Vivian had moved to the opposite side of the room, her back pressed against the wall, her arms wrapped around herself. She was staring at the man on the floor like he might transform into something worse at any moment. Her lips were moving, whispering something Janae couldn't hear. Ma'am, I need you to stay where you are, the operator was saying. Don't approach the suspect. Officers will be there in approximately 4 minutes. For minutes. Janae looked at Vivian, then back at the man on the floor. For minutes for everything to make sense or fall apart. For minutes before Mr. Hartwell would inevitably be called, before lawyers would arrive, before this entire moment could be rewritten as something else entirely. She needed evidence. She needed the truth locked down before it could be twisted. The vanity, she said to Vivian, her voice low. The drawer you showed me. I took pictures, but we need the actual documents. We need to make sure they can't disappear. Vivian blinked, focus returning to her eyes. She pushed off the wall and moved to the vanity, pulling open the locked drawer with shaking hands. She gathered the papers, the vials, the syringe, holding them against her chest like they were both precious and poisonous. There's more, Vivian said, her voice gaining strength. In his study, the locked cabinet behind his desk. I've seen him putting papers in there, talking on the phone about the facility, about the timeline. I never had the key, but... She looked at the man on the floor. He might. Janae knelt beside him, careful not to get too close. She patted his jacket pockets, finding a wallet, car keys, and a phone. The phone was locked, but the wallet held an ID. Lawrence Peterman, Clinical Coordinator, Berkshire Wellness Center, Brattleboro, Vermont. Not a nurse. Not a doctor. A coordinator. There was also a key card and 2 small keys on a ring. Stay with him, Janae said. Keep him in sight. I'll be right back. She could hear the operator asking questions through the phone, could feel her heart hammering against her ribs, but she moved anyway, out of the bedroom and down the hall to Mr. Hartwell's study. She'd cleaned this room a dozen times, but never touched the locked cabinet. It was mahogany, elegant, with a brass lock that gleamed. She tried the first key. Nothing. The second one slid in and turned. The cabinet swung open. Inside were files. Dozens of them. She pulled out the one labeled Vivian and opened it. Her stomach turned. It was all there. A timeline, meticulously planned. Weeks of documentation about Vivian's alleged deteriorating mental state. Reports from Miss Brennan about paranoid delusions and memory loss. Records of medications administered. A letter from Dr. Chun recommending immediate psychiatric hospitalization for Vivian's safety and the safety of others. A legal document granting Mr. Hartwell power of attorney over all medical decisions should his wife be deemed incompetent. And underneath it all, a financial document. A post-nuptial agreement, unsigned, that would grant Mr. Hartwell complete control of Vivian's trust fund, the fortune she'd inherited from her late father, $30 million, in the event of her mental incapacity. It wasn't about love gone wrong. It wasn't about concern for a struggling wife. It was about money. It had always been about money. Janae's hands shook as she took photos of every page, her phone camera clicking rapidly. She could hear sirens now, distant but growing closer. She grabbed the entire file and ran back to the bedroom. Vivian was still pressed against the wall, but she looked different now, less fragile. Her eyes had a hardness to them, a clarity that cut through the fear. When she saw the file in Janae's hands, something like vindication crossed her face. He was going to lock me away, she said quietly. Take everything my father left me. Make me disappear into some facility where he could keep me drugged and compliant forever. And no one would have questioned it because he's Preston Hartwell, and I'm just his unstable young wife. The man on the floor, Peterman, had regained consciousness. He was looking at them now with cold, calculating eyes. You're making a mistake, he said, his voice rough but controlled. Mrs. Hartwell is mentally ill. She's dangerous to herself and others. Everything we've done has been for her protection. Mr. Hartwell loves his wife. This is a medical situation, not a criminal one. Shut up, Janae said, surprised by the steel in her own voice. You're just the maid, Peterman continued, a sneer creeping into his tone. You have no idea what you're interfering with. Do you know what Mr. Hartwell can do to you? Do you have any idea the resources he has? You'll be arrested before the day is out. Assault, trespassing, interfering with medical care. You'll lose everything. The words hit like arrows because they were aimed at her deepest fears. She could lose everything. She could lose destiny forever. She could end up back in a cell, back at zero, back to being nothing and no one. But then Vivian spoke. Her name is Janae Washington. Vivian's voice was clear and strong, nothing foggy about it now. And she saved my life. She saw me when everyone else chose not to. She's worth 100 of you, and 1,000 of my husband. The sirens were right outside now. Footsteps thundered up the stairs. Voices called out, authoritative and commanding. Boston police. We're coming in. Up here. Janae shouted. 3rd floor. Master bedroom. The door burst open and 3 officers entered, hands on their weapons, eyes scanning the scene. A man tied up and bleeding on the floor. 2 women standing together, one holding a file folder, the other holding medical documents. I'm Officer Walsh, the lead cop said, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes. Someone want to tell me what's going on? Janae and Vivian started talking at the same time, their words tumbling over each other. Officer Walsh held up a hand. One at a time. You first. She pointed at Vivian. Are you Mrs. Hartwell? Yes. Are you injured? No. Not physically. But I would have been. This man, she pointed at Peterman, was trying to inject me with something against my will. He's been coming here for days, posing as medical staff, drugging me, making me confused. My husband hired him. They were planning to commit me to a psychiatric facility on Saturday and take control of my inheritance. Officer Walsh's expression didn't change, but Janae saw her eyes sharpen. That's a serious accusation. I have proof. Vivian held out the documents from the vanity. And there's more. Much more. In my husband's study. The officer took the papers, glancing through them. Another officer was already on his radio, calling for paramedics and backup. The third was photographing the scene, the tied-up man, the syringe on the floor, the shattered lamp. And you are? Walsh turned to Janae. Janae Washington. I work here. I'm on the household staff. Mrs. Hartwell asked me to come to the bedroom to change linens. When I arrived, I found this man threatening her with that syringe. I told him I was calling the police. He came at me. Mrs. Hartwell defended us both. She saved me, Vivian said, and her voice cracked for the first time. I asked her to witness what was in my vanity, to see the truth. Because I knew if I tried to tell anyone myself, they'd just say I was crazy. But she saw. She believed me. Officer Walsh looked between them, and Janae saw the moment the cop decided who to believe. It wasn't about class or money or power. It was about two women standing together against something rotten, something that had happened too many times before in too many houses where money bought silence. All right, Walsh said. We're going to need full statements from both of you. And we're going to need to secure that study and everything in it before Mr. Hartwell gets home. Where is he now? His office, Vivian said. Downtown. Hartwell Industries building. But he'll know soon. He always knows. As if summoned by the words, Vivian's phone rang. The screen lit up. Preston. Everyone froze. Don't answer it, Officer Walsh said. Let it go to voicemail. The phone rang and rang, then stopped. A moment later, it buzzed with a text message. Vivian looked at the screen, her face going pale. He says the security company called him. About police at the house. He says he's on his way home, and I should not speak to anyone until his lawyer arrives. Too late for that, Walsh said grimly. She turned to her fellow officers. Get this man medical attention and into custody. I want this entire floor treated as a crime scene. And someone call the DA's office. We're going to need them. Peterman was being hauled to his feet now, his face twisted with rage and pain. You have no idea what you've done, he hissed at Vivian. No idea who you're up against. But Vivian didn't flinch. She stood tall, her hand reaching out to find Janae's. Their fingers intertwined, holding on like they were the only solid things in a tilting world. I know exactly who I'm up against, Vivian said quietly. And I'm not backing down. Not anymore. Paramedics arrived, their equipment rattling. More police officers filed in, and the bedroom that had been attuned 30 minutes ago was now full of people, full of movement, full of witnesses who would make it impossible for this to be buried. Officer Walsh pulled Janae aside while another officer stayed with Vivian. I need to know something, Walsh said, her voice low. You work here. You need this job. Why did you risk it? Why didn't you just walk away? Janae thought of destiny. She thought of every moment she'd been invisible, every time she'd swallowed her voice to survive. She thought of the woman she'd been 3 years ago, too scared to speak up, and the price she'd paid for that silence. Because I have a daughter, she said, and I want her to grow up in a world where women look out for each other, where people don't walk past when someone's drowning. I want her to know her mama stood up when it mattered, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Walsh studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. You did the right thing. It's going to get complicated from here. Mr. Hartwell's going to come at both of you with everything he has. But you did the right thing. Outside, a car door slammed. Expensive footsteps on the front walk. A key in the lock. Preston Hartwell had come home. Vivian's hand tightened in Janae's. Across the room, their eyes met and held. Two women from different worlds, bound together now by truth and courage and the refusal to be erased. Stay with me, Vivian whispered. Please. When he comes up here, don't leave me alone with him. I'm not going anywhere, Janae promised. And she meant it. The footsteps were on the stairs now, rapid and heavy. The voice carried up, imperious and cold. Vivian, what the hell is going on? Where are you? Officer Walsh stepped into the hallway, positioning herself at the top of the staircase. Mr. Hartwell, I'm Officer Walsh with Boston PD. I need you to stop there and answer some questions. Get out of my way. This is my house. That's my wife. I want to know what. Sir, Your wife is fine, but there's been an incident. We need to speak with you about your employee, Lawrence Peterman, and allegations of attempted assault and conspiracy to commit false imprisonment." There was a moment of silence. Then Preston's voice came again, different now, smoother, reasonable. "There's been a terrible misunderstanding. My wife is unwell. She's been having episodes. Whatever she told you, I can explain. I have documentation from her doctors. I've been trying to get her help, but she's been resistant. Sometimes she becomes paranoid, makes accusations. It's heartbreaking, really." Janae felt Vivian stiffen beside her. This was the script. This was how he'd planned to bury her. With concern and sadness and the weight of medical authority. With the assumption that the rich husband must be telling the truth and the troubled wife must be delusional. But Officer Walsh had seen the papers. She'd seen the timeline, the fake diagnoses, the financial motive. She'd seen two women standing together, one who had everything to lose and still told the truth. "We're going to need to see that documentation, Mr. Hartwell. All of it. And you're going to need to come down to the station to answer some questions. We have evidence that suggests this situation is significantly different from how you're describing it." "Evidence? What evidence? Provided by whom?" "My wife, who can barely remember what day it is. Or some member of my staff, who's been told God knows what stories." Janae felt something ignite in her chest. She stepped to the bedroom doorway, into his line of sight. "My name is Janae Washington, Mr. Hartwell. And I saw everything. I have photos of everything. The drugs, the commitment papers, the financial documents. I saw your coordinator holding a syringe to your wife's neck. I heard him say you'd be pleased when she was ready for the facility. This isn't about helping her. It's about controlling her money." Preston's face appeared at the top of the stairs, and Janae got her first clear look at him in months. He was handsome, polished, dressed in a suit that probably cost what she made in 6 months. But his eyes were cold, calculating, and filled with a rage that made her blood freeze. "You," he said quietly, "you're fired, and you'll be hearing from my lawyers. Breaking into my private study, stealing confidential documents, assaulting my employee, filling my wife's head with paranoid fantasies. I'll have you arrested. I'll have you sued for everything you have and everything you'll ever have. You'll never work in this city again." "Mr. Hartwell," Officer Walsh said sharply, "that's enough. You're not in a position to be making threats right now." But Preston wasn't looking at her. He was looking at Janae, and his smile was a knife. "Do you have children, Miss Washington? I think I remember Patricia mentioning you had a daughter. In foster care, wasn't it? Or was it with a family member? How do you think that custody battle is going to look when you're facing criminal charges? When you're unemployed and broke and back in front of a judge?" The words hit exactly where he'd aimed them. Janae felt her knees weaken, felt the fear claw its way up her throat. He'd found her pressure point in seconds, the thing that could break her. He was right. He could destroy her. He had the money, the lawyers, the connections. He could twist this into something else, could make her the villain, could take away any chance she had of getting Destiny back. But then Vivian was there, stepping forward, her voice ringing clear and furious. "Don't you dare threaten her. She saved my life. She did what none of your staff, none of my friends, none of my own family would do. She saw me, and I'm going to make damn sure everyone knows it. Every reporter, every news station, every person who's ever trusted the Hartwell name is going to know exactly what you tried to do to me. You want a scandal, Preston? You want attention? Because I'm about to give you more than you can handle." Preston's face flushed red. "You're unwell, Vivian. Everyone knows it. Your mother knows it. Your psychiatrist knows it." "I don't have a psychiatrist," Vivian said coldly. "I never did. Dr. Chen works for you. He's never met me. Every document with his signature is a fraud. And we can prove it." The silence that followed was electric. Preston's mask slipped, just for a moment, and Janae saw something desperate underneath. A man whose careful plan was unraveling, whose control was slipping away. Officer Walsh pulled out her handcuffs. "Preston Hartwell, I'm detaining you for questioning in connection with conspiracy to commit false imprisonment, assault, and fraud. You have the right to remain silent." The words washed over the hallway like a tide. Preston didn't resist, but his eyes never left Vivian's face. There was hatred there, yes, but also disbelief. Disbelief that his pretty, fragile wife had found her spine, that she'd found an ally, that she'd fought back. As they led him down the stairs, Vivian swayed. Janae caught her, and suddenly they were both sitting on the bedroom floor again, Exactly where they'd been when the sirens first arrived. Two women holding each other up. Two women who'd been drowning and found something solid to grab onto. What happens now? Vivian whispered. I don't know, Janae admitted. But we'll figure it out. Together. Outside, news vans were already arriving. Someone had tipped off the media. The Hartwell name was too big, the story too sensational. By evening, it would be everywhere. And somewhere in Atlanta, Janae's mother would see the news and call. And Janae would have to explain. Would have to face the possibility that she'd just destroyed any chance of bringing Destiny home. But when she looked at Vivian, at this woman who'd been hours away from disappearing into a nightmare, she couldn't regret it. Wouldn't regret it. Some things were worth the risk. Some people were worth fighting for. Even when you didn't know if you'd survive the fight. The police station smelled like stale coffee and industrial cleaner. Janae sat in a hard plastic chair outside interview room B, her phone clutched in her hands, waiting. It had been 3 hours since they'd left the Hartwell estate. 3 hours of statements and questions, and the slow, grinding machinery of the law trying to figure out what had happened and who to believe. Her phone kept buzzing. Messages from her mother, increasingly frantic. Messages from Patricia and Maria, asking if she was okay, if the rumors were true. A missed call from her parole officer, which made her stomach drop. And one text from a number she didn't recognize. This is Attorney Mitchell Reeves. I represent Preston Hartwell. We need to talk. She deleted it without reading further. Across the hallway, Vivian was in interview room A with Officer Walsh and someone from the district attorney's office. Through the small window in the door, Janae could see her sitting very straight, her hands folded on the table, talking. Still fighting. Janae's phone buzzed again. This time it was her mother, and she couldn't ignore it anymore. She answered. Janae Marie Washington, you better tell me right now that what I'm seeing on the news isn't you. Her mother's voice was sharp with fear and anger, the tone she'd used when Janae was 16 and had stayed out past curfew, when she was 23 and had gotten arrested, when she was 26 and had lost custody of Destiny. The tone that meant I love you, but I'm terrified of what you've done. Mama, they're saying you assaulted someone. They're saying you broke into private property and stole documents. They're showing your picture, baby. Your face is on Channel 7. What were you thinking? I was thinking that a woman was about to be drugged and locked away by her husband so he could steal her money, Janae said quietly. I was thinking someone needed to help her. There was a long silence on the other end. Then her mother's voice came back, softer now, weighted with resignation. You can't save everyone, Janae. You can't fix everything. We talked about this. You're supposed to be keeping your head down, staying out of trouble, building your case to get Destiny back. And now you're on the news, caught up in some rich people's mess, probably about to lose your job if you haven't already. How is this helping your daughter? The words landed like stones. Because her mother was right. This didn't help Destiny. This didn't help her custody case. This probably destroyed it. I know, Janae whispered. I know, Mama. But I couldn't walk away. I saw what was happening, and I couldn't just. You couldn't just think of your own child first? Her mother's voice cracked. Baby, I love you. You know I do. But this right here? This is the same thing that got you in trouble before. You got a good heart, but you don't think. You just act. And then the rest of us have to pick up the pieces. Is Destiny watching the news? No. She's at school, thank God. But her teacher might see it. Her social worker might see it. The judge might see it. What am I supposed to tell her when she asks why Mama's on TV again? Why Mama's in trouble again? Janae closed her eyes, pressing her palm against her forehead. Tell her Mama did the right thing. Even when it was hard. The right thing doesn't pay lawyers, Janae. The right thing doesn't convince a judge to give you back custody. The right thing doesn't keep you out of jail. The call ended. Janae sat there, staring at her phone, feeling the full weight of what she'd done settle on her shoulders. Her mother was right about all of it. She'd risked everything. The job she needed, the clean record she'd been building, the carefully constructed case for why she deserved her daughter back. For a woman she barely knew. For someone who lived in a different world. Someone who would probably go back to that world once this was over and never think about the maid who'd helped her. The door to interview room A opened. Vivian emerged, looking exhausted but steady. Officer Walsh was with her, and behind them, a woman in a sharp suit carrying a briefcase. The district attorney, Janae guessed. Vivian's eyes found her immediately. She crossed the hallway and sat down in the plastic chair next to Janae, close enough that their shoulders touched. "How are you?" Vivian asked. "I just got fired by your husband's lawyer over text," Janae said flatly. "My parole officer wants to talk to me. My mother thinks I'm destroying my life. And I'm pretty sure I just lost any chance of getting my daughter back. So, living the dream." Vivian was quiet for a moment. Then, "Tell me about your daughter." "What? Your daughter? Destiny, right? I heard you mention her name to the officer earlier. Tell me about her." Janae didn't want to talk about Destiny. Didn't want to think about how far away she felt right now, how impossible it seemed that they'd ever be together. But something in Vivian's voice, in the way she was asking, not demanding, made the words come. "She's 6. Almost 7. She likes to draw, apparently. My mama says she draws pictures of princesses and cats, and me. Even though she barely remembers me. I lost custody when she was 2, after I got arrested. Been trying to get her back ever since, but the system, it doesn't make it easy. You have to prove you're stable, employed, reformed. You have to jump through hoops made of fire and hope you don't get burned. You must miss her terribly. Every single day." Janae's voice broke. "Every single day I wake up and she's not there, and I have to keep going anyway. Keep working, keep saving, keep proving. And now I've gone and messed it all up for someone I don't even know." "You know me," Vivian said quietly. "Maybe not my whole story, but you know the parts that matter. You know I was drowning. You know I needed help. And you gave it, even though it cost you. Yeah, well, a lot of good that does me now." Officer Walsh approached them, her expression unreadable. "Ms. Washington, we need your statement now. But first, I want you to know that the district attorney has reviewed the evidence. The photos you took, the documents, the testimony from both you and Mrs. Hartwell. They match. Everything checks out. Lawrence Peterman is being charged with assault and conspiracy. We're building a case against Mr. Hartwell as well." Janae nodded numbly. "Am I being charged with anything?" "The DA's office is still reviewing the situation. Breaking into the study is technically trespassing, but given the circumstances and the fact that Mrs. Hartwell authorized your presence in the home, it's unlikely they'll pursue charges. Self-defense is clear in the bedroom incident. But I won't lie to you, Mr. Hartwell's attorneys are pushing hard. They're claiming you manipulated Mrs. Hartwell, that you're trying to extort money, that you had no right to photograph private documents." "I don't want money," Janae said tiredly. "I just wanted to stop something bad from happening." "I know. And for what it's worth, I believe you. But belief doesn't always translate to the legal system working the way it should. You need a lawyer. A good one. I can't afford a good lawyer. I can barely afford a bad one." Vivian stood up abruptly. "I'll pay for it." Everyone turned to look at her. "I'll pay for her lawyer," Vivian repeated, her voice firm. "The best one we can find. Criminal defense, family law, whatever she needs. She saved my life. It's the least I can do." "Mrs. Hartwell," the DA's office woman said carefully, "I understand your gratitude, but that could complicate things. It might look like you're paying for her cooperation, for her testimony. I don't care how it looks. She needs help, and I'm giving it. End of discussion." Janae shook her head. "I can't accept that. I can't take your money. It'll just make everything worse." "Worse than what?" Vivian turned to her, and there was fire in those gray eyes now, something fierce and unbreakable. "Worse than you losing your daughter because you couldn't afford proper representation? Worse than you going to jail because my husband has an army of lawyers and you have nothing? No, I'm not letting that happen. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything." Vivian's voice cracked. "You don't understand. I was gone, Janae. I was disappearing. A few more days and I would have been in that facility, drugged into compliance, and everyone would have believed I belonged there. My own mother was starting to believe Preston. My friends had already stopped returning my calls because he'd convinced them I was unstable. In a month, I would have been a ghost. In a year, I would have been dead, and no one would have questioned it. You gave me my life back. So yes, I owe you. I owe you more than I can ever repay." The hallway was silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant ringing of phones. Janae felt something shift inside her chest, something that had been locked down for years. The belief that she was alone, that she had to fight every battle by herself, that accepting help was weakness, that she didn't deserve kindness because of the mistakes she'd made. But Vivian wasn't offering pity. She was offering solidarity. Woman to woman. Survivor to survivor. "Okay," Janae whispered. "Okay, thank you." Vivian's hand found hers and squeezed. Officer Walsh cleared her throat. All right, Ms. Washington, let's get your statement. Then we'll figure out next steps. Mrs. Hartwell, you're free to go for now, but we'll need you to stay in the city. Don't go back to the house. Is there somewhere safe you can stay? Vivian's face fell. I don't know. My mother lives in Connecticut, but she'll side with Preston. She always does. My friends. She trailed off, and Janae understood. When you were Mrs. Preston Hartwell, you had acquaintances, not friends. You had people who smiled at charity galas and had lunch at the club, but who wouldn't risk their own standing to shelter you when you were radioactive. There are shelters, Walsh began, but Vivian flinched at the word. She can stay with me, Janae heard herself say. Everyone stared at her. I have a studio apartment in Dorchester. It's not much. It's basically just one room and a bathroom. But there's a pull-out couch. You'd be safe there. At least for tonight. Janae, Vivian said softly, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. But I'm offering. You need a place to stay, and I have one. Simple as that. What wasn't simple was the look that passed between them. Recognition. Understanding. The knowledge that they were in this together now, for better or worse. Two women who'd been invisible in different ways finding each other in the wreckage. Then yes, Vivian said. Thank you. Yes. Officer Walsh looked between them and shook her head slightly, something that might have been respect or concern or both. All right, let's get these statements done. It's going to be a long night. She was right. It took 2 more hours to give her full statement, to answer every question, to walk through every moment from when she'd entered the bedroom to when the police had arrived. Her hand cramped from signing documents. Her throat was raw from talking. But finally, they were done. It was almost 9 o'clock when they stepped out of the police station into the cool October night. News vans were still camped outside, cameras swinging toward them the moment they appeared. Reporters shouted questions, a wall of noise and light. Mrs. Hartwell, is it true your husband tried to have you committed? Ms. Washington, are you facing charges? Is there a romantic relationship between you two? How much money is involved? Officer Walsh and 2 other officers formed a barrier, pushing them toward a waiting car. Not a police car, Janae realized. A regular sedan. A young officer at the wheel who'd volunteered to give them a ride away from the circus. They climbed into the back seat, and as the car pulled away from the cameras and the questions and the chaos, Janae felt Vivian start to shake. Not crying, just shaking, the adrenaline finally wearing off, the reality of everything setting in. It's okay, Janae said, putting her arm around Vivian's shoulders. It's over. The worst part is over. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true. The worst part was just beginning. The legal battles, the media attention, the inevitable backlash. Preston Hartwell wouldn't go down quietly. Men like him never did. He'd fight, and he'd use every weapon he had, money and influence and the benefit of doubt that the system always gave to rich white men over everyone else. And Janae would be caught in the crossfire, her face on the news, her past dug up and dissected, her fitness as a mother questioned by strangers who'd never met her daughter. But she'd made her choice. She'd stepped into that bedroom. She'd said, don't scream. She'd refused to look away. And somehow, impossibly, she'd found something she hadn't expected. An ally. A friend. Someone who saw her, really saw her, and chose to stand beside her. The car wound through the city streets, leaving the lights of downtown behind, heading toward Dorchester, toward Janae's tiny apartment, toward whatever came next. Vivian had stopped shaking. She lifted her head from Janae's shoulder and looked out the window at the passing neighborhoods, at a part of Boston she'd probably never visited despite living in the city for 5 years. I've never been to Dorchester, she said quietly. It's not Beacon Hill. Good. I never want to see Beacon Hill again. They rode in silence for a while. Then Vivian spoke again, her voice small and uncertain. What if I can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough to fight him? He's so powerful, Janae. He has so many people on his side. What if I break? What if I fall apart and prove him right? That I am unstable, that I do need help. Janae thought about the last 3 years of her life. The court dates and the supervised visits and the nights she'd cried herself to sleep, missing Destiny so much it felt like dying. The times she'd wanted to give up, to stop fighting, to accept that she'd never be good enough to get her daughter back. You won't break, she said firmly. You know how I know? Because you already survived the worst part. You survived being invisible, being dismissed, being told you were crazy when you knew you were sane. And you still found a way to fight back. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing I've ever seen. You fought back too, even though it might cost you your daughter. Yeah, I did. Janae swallowed hard. And I'm terrified. I'm so scared I can barely breathe. But I keep thinking, what kind of mother would I be if I taught Destiny that we walk away when someone needs help? That we protect ourselves at the expense of others? I want her to be brave. So I have to be brave first. Vivian reached over and took her hand. We'll be brave together then. Deal. Deal. The car pulled up in front of Janae's building, a tired brick structure with laundry hanging from some of the balconies and a broken security light by the entrance. Janae felt a flash of embarrassment, seeing it through Vivian's eyes, imagining how small and shabby it must seem compared to the Beacon Hill estate. But Vivian just smiled. It looks perfect. They climbed the 3 flights of stairs to Janae's apartment. Janae unlocked the door and flipped on the light, revealing her entire world in one glance. The studio was maybe 400 square feet. A kitchenette in one corner, a bathroom barely big enough to turn around in, a Murphy bed she pulled down from the wall at night, and a small couch that had seen better days. Her possessions were minimal, clothes in a narrow closet, a few dishes, books from the library stacked on the windowsill, and on every wall, drawings. Destiny's drawings, sent by her mother, taped up like a gallery. Princesses and cats and stick-figure families holding hands. Vivian walked slowly around the room, looking at each drawing. She stopped in front of one that showed a little girl and a woman with big smiles and a son in the corner. She loves you, Vivian said softly. You can see it in every line. Janae's throat tightened. I hope that's enough. I hope when this all shakes out, the judge sees that love matters more than mistakes. That I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago. You're not. Anyone with eyes can see that. They stood there in the small apartment, surrounded by a 6-year-old's artwork, 2 women who'd started the day as employer and employee and ended it as something else entirely. Something that didn't have a name yet, but felt solid and real. I'll get you some blankets for the couch, Janae said, breaking the moment. And I have some clothes that might fit you. We're about the same size. Thank you. For all of this. For everything. You don't have to keep thanking me. Yes, I do. Because not enough people thank you before, and you deserve to hear it. Janae turned away before Vivian could see the tears in her eyes. She busied herself pulling sheets and a pillow from the narrow closet, making up the couch, giving Vivian a toothbrush still in its package and an oversized t-shirt to sleep in. They took turns in the tiny bathroom, washing off the longest day of their lives. When Janae came out, Vivian was already on the couch, curled under the blanket, staring at the ceiling. I keep thinking he's going to show up, Vivian admitted. That he's going to break down the door and drag me back. That this is all just a delay, and he'll win in the end because men like him always win. He's not going to show up. And he's not going to win. Not this time. How can you be so sure? Because this time, you're not alone. This time, people saw what happened. This time, there's evidence and witnesses and a whole system that has to answer for it if they let him get away with it. It's not perfect. It's not fair. But it's something. Vivian was quiet for a long moment. Then, will you tell me about Destiny? About what she was like when she was little. So Janae did. She pulled down the Murphy bed and lay in the darkness. And she told Vivian about her daughter. About how Destiny had been born 6 weeks early, tiny and fierce. About how she'd started walking at 10 months and hadn't stopped moving since. About the way she laughed, how it sounded like bells. About the last time Janae had held her, right before the social worker took her away, how Destiny had clung to her and cried, "Mama, don't go," and how Janae had lied and said she'd be right back. And Vivian listened, really listened, the way no one had listened to Janae in years. Not judging, not fixing, just witnessing, just being present. Somewhere around midnight, they both finally fell asleep. Janae dreamed of Destiny running toward her with arms outstretched. Vivian dreamed of birds escaping from cages, flying toward light. Outside, the city kept moving. The news kept broadcasting. Preston Hartwell's lawyers kept strategizing. The wheels of justice kept grinding. But in that small apartment in Dorchester, 2 women rested. 2 women who'd been invisible found each other. 2 women who'd been drowning grabbed hold and refused to let go. And for one night, that was enough. Morning came too early, piercing through the thin curtains with unforgiving autumn light. Janae woke to her phone buzzing insistently on the floor beside her bed. She reached for it, groggy and disoriented, and saw 17 missed calls. Her parole officer, Patricia, 2 numbers she didn't recognize, and her mother, 3 times. The clock read 6:47 a.m. On the couch, Vivian stirred, blinking awake in the unfamiliar space. For a moment, confusion crossed her face, then memory, then something like relief. She was here. She was safe. She'd survived. Is that your phone or mine? Vivian's voice was rough with sleep. Mine. Apparently, everyone wants to talk to us. Janae sat up, running her hand over her face. I need coffee. You want coffee? Please. Janae padded to the kitchenette, filling her ancient coffee maker with water and grounds. While it brewed, she scrolled through her messages, her stomach sinking with each one. Patricia. Janae, I don't know what to say. The whole staff is being questioned. Mr. Hartwell's lawyers are claiming you manipulated all of us. Please call me. Her parole officer. Ms. Washington, I need to see you today. My office, 2 p.m. Non-negotiable. An unknown number. This is Cheryl Kim from the Boston Globe. I'd like to speak with you about yesterday's incident at the Hartwell residence. There's public interest in your story. Another unknown number. Ms. Washington, I'm calling on behalf of Channel 5 News. We'd like to offer you an exclusive interview. And her mother, in a text sent at 2 a.m. Baby, I'm sorry for what I said. I'm scared for you. But I'm also proud. Call me when you can. The coffee maker sputtered and hissed. Janae poured 2 cups, bringing one to Vivian, who'd sat up and was staring at her own phone with a similar expression of dread. 43 messages, Vivian said quietly. My mother, my aunt, people I went to college with, people I haven't spoken to in years. And Preston. He sent 12 texts, each one more threatening than the last. What's he saying? Vivian's jaw tightened. That I'm making the biggest mistake of my life. That I'm destroying his reputation over a misunderstanding. That if I come home right now, we can fix this quietly, go to therapy together, present a united front. And if I don't, she trailed off. If you don't, he'll make sure I never see a cent of my father's money. He'll prove in court that I'm mentally incompetent. He'll ruin me. Those are his words. I'll ruin you, Vivian. I'll take everything. Janae sat down beside her on the couch. He can't do that. Not after what happened yesterday. Not with the evidence. Can't he? Vivian looked at her, and in the morning light, Janae could see how young she really was. 33, but in this moment she looked barely 20, scared and uncertain. He has the best lawyers money can buy. He has connections to judges, politicians, the police commissioner. He donated $2 million to the mayor's campaign last year. Who do you think they're going to believe in the end? Before Janae could answer, there was a knock at the door. Both women froze. Police, a voice called. Officer Walsh. I need to speak with Mrs. Hartwell and Ms. Washington. Janae went to the door, checking the peephole before opening it. Officer Walsh stood there in plain clothes, looking tired, a paper bag in her hand. I brought breakfast, Walsh said, holding up the bag. And information you need to hear. Can I come in? They sat around Janae's small table, the bag revealing bagels and cream cheese that none of them touched. Walsh pulled out a folder and opened it. Preston Hartwell was released on bail at 3 this morning. $2 million, paid immediately. He's been charged with conspiracy to commit false imprisonment and fraud, but his lawyers are already fighting it. They're claiming the whole thing is a misunderstanding, that he was genuinely concerned about his wife's mental health and was following medical advice. Medical advice from a doctor who never actually examined me, Vivian said. We know, but they're working every angle. They've got Dr. Chin claiming he did have phone consultations with you, that you don't remember them because of your condition. They've got 3 witnesses who'll testify that you seemed confused and erratic in the weeks leading up to this. Your mother gave a statement saying she was worried about you. Vivian's face went pale. My mother? She gave a statement to Preston's lawyers. Last night. I'm sorry. She said you've always been fragile, that you've had issues with depression and anxiety, that she wasn't surprised you were having a breakdown. She characterized Preston as a devoted husband trying to help his troubled wife. The coffee cup in Vivian's hand started to shake. Janae took it from her gently, setting it on the table before she dropped it. What about the documents? Janae asked. The timeline, the financial papers, the proof that he was trying to steal her inheritance? His lawyers are claiming those were contingency plans in case Mrs. Hartwell became unable to manage her own affairs. They're saying it's responsible estate planning, not a conspiracy. And the drugs Peterman was going to inject her with? They're saying it was prescribed medication that Mrs. Hartwell had been refusing to take, and they were trying to administer it for her own safety. That's bullshit, Janae said flatly. We both saw what was happening. She was terrified. He was forcing her. I believe you. The DA believes you. But belief and proof are different things in court. And Preston Hartwell's team is very good at creating reasonable doubt. Walsh looked at Vivian directly. They're going to paint you as an unreliable witness. Mentally ill, possibly drug-seeking, definitely vindictive toward your husband. They're already leaking stories to friendly journalists about your troubled past. What troubled past? Vivian's voice was barely a whisper. I don't have a troubled past. I was a normal person before I married him. They're creating one. Unnamed sources talking about eating disorders when you were in college, depression after your father died, a suicide attempt that never happened. It's all lies, but it's out there now, circulating. By the end of the week, half of Boston will believe you're unstable. The silence that followed was suffocating. Janae watched Vivian's face crumble, watched her pull into herself, watched the woman who'd been so fierce last night disappear into something small and scared. So he wins, Vivian said dully. He tried to destroy me, and when I fought back, he's destroying me anyway. And everyone will believe him because he's Preston Hartwell, and I'm just his crazy wife. No. Walsh leaned forward. He doesn't win. Not if we're smart. Not if we control the narrative before he does. How? You tell your story. Not to his lawyers. Not in a courtroom where they can twist your words. You tell it to the public. You go on camera. You give interviews. You let people see you. Let them see that you're not crazy, that you're coherent and credible in telling the truth. You make it impossible for them to dismiss you. Vivian shook her head. I can't. I've never been good at that kind of thing. Public speaking, media, being on display. I freeze up. I get tongue-tied. That's why Preston always handled everything. All the public appearances and charity events. He said I was too shy, too awkward. He was better at it. He said that to keep you quiet, Janae said suddenly, the pieces clicking together. To keep you small. To make sure you never had a voice of your own. But you do have a voice, Vivian. I heard it yesterday. When you stood up to him. When you told him you weren't backing down. That was real. That was strong. That was in private. In front of cameras, in front of reporters, I'll fall apart. I know I will. Walsh closed her folder. Then you'll fall apart. And people will see that too. They'll see a woman who's been through hell, who's scared and vulnerable and still fighting. That's not weakness. That's relatable. That's human. What about Janae? Vivian turned to her. If I do this, if I go public, they'll come after her too. They'll dig into her past, her record, her custody situation. We'll both be destroyed. They're already coming after me, Janae said quietly. I have to meet with my parole officer in a few hours. I'm pretty sure I'm about to be violated for something, some technicality they can use to put me back inside. And my custody hearing is in 3 weeks. 3 weeks, and I was supposed to show up with proof that I'm stable and employed and reformed. Instead, I'm going to show up on the news, unemployed and involved in a scandal with a billionaire's wife. She stood up, walking to the window, looking out at the morning traffic on the street below. My lawyer, the public defender who's been helping me with the custody case, he called me last night. Said I should distance myself from you. Said I should claim I was just doing my job, that I didn't know what was really happening, that I got caught in the middle. Said it's my only shot at keeping the judge on my side. Are you going to do it? Vivian's voice was small. Janae turned to face her. No. Because it's a lie. And because I'm done lying to survive. I'm done being invisible. If I'm going to lose Destiny, I'm going to lose her telling the truth. At least then I can look at myself in the mirror. Something shifted in Vivian's expression. Something hardened and focused. Okay, then we fight. Together. We tell our story, the real story, and we let the chips fall where they may. You're sure? Walsh asked. No. I'm terrified. But I'm doing it anyway. Vivian stood up, squaring her shoulders. What do we do first? Walsh pulled out her phone. First, I make a call. I have a friend who's a victims' rights advocate. She's connected with some good journalists, the kind who'll tell your story fairly. We set up an interview, carefully controlled, with someone trustworthy. We get ahead of the narrative. When? Today? Tomorrow at the latest. Every hour we wait is another hour for Preston's team to spin this their way. Janae felt dizzy. Everything was moving so fast. Yesterday morning she'd been a maid, invisible and safe. Now she was at the center of a media storm, about to go on camera and tell the world what she'd seen, knowing it might cost her everything. Her phone rang. Her parole officer again. "I have to take this," she said, stepping into the bathroom for privacy. "Ms. Washington." Officer Frank Chen's voice was cold and professional. "I need to see you in my office at 2 o'clock. There have been allegations that you violated the terms of your parole by engaging in criminal activity. Theft, assault, trespassing. We need to discuss your status." "I didn't do anything criminal. I stopped a crime from happening. That's for me to determine." 2 o'clock. "If you don't show up, I'll issue a warrant." The line went dead. Janae leaned against the bathroom sink, her reflection staring back at her from the mirror. She looked exhausted, older than her 29 years, like someone who'd been fighting her whole life and was almost out of strength. But next to the mirror was the photo of Destiny. For years old, grinning, missing her front teeth. "I'm trying, baby," Janae whispered to the photo. "I'm trying so hard." When she came out of the bathroom, Vivian and Walsh were talking quietly. They both looked up when they saw her face. "What happened?" Vivian asked. "My parole officer. He says I violated my terms. Wants me in his office at 2 or he'll have me arrested." "That's ridiculous. You stopped a crime. You're a witness, not a criminal. Doesn't matter. He can revoke me for anything, even being associated with a high-profile case. It's too much attention, too much risk. They'd rather have me locked up than out here, making waves." Walsh stood up. "Let me make a call. I know someone in the parole division. Maybe I can get this smoothed over, buy you some time." "Why are you helping us?" Janae asked suddenly. "You're a cop. You don't have to do any of this. Why are you on our side?" Walsh was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than usual. "Because 15 years ago, I was a rookie cop who responded to a domestic violence call in Newton. Rich neighborhood, big house, woman with a black eye who said she fell down the stairs. Her husband stood right there, smiling, convincing, telling me his wife was clumsy, a little unstable, that I shouldn't worry. And I believed him. I left. 2 weeks later, she was dead. He beat her to death and claimed self-defense, said she'd attacked him first. He got off with manslaughter, served 3 years. The room was silent. I swore I'd never walk away again, Walsh continued. Never ignore the quiet voice asking for help. Never believe the powerful man just because he's powerful. So yeah, I'm helping. Because someone has to, and it might as well be me. Janae felt something crack open in her chest. Gratitude, yes, but more than that. Recognition. The understanding that they weren't alone in this fight. That there were people who saw, who believed, who chose to act. Thank you, she said. Don't thank me yet. We've got a long road ahead. But I'm in it with you. Both of you. Walsh picked up her phone. Let me make some calls. You two eat something, take showers, get ready. We're going to need you at your best today. She stepped out into the hallway, talking quietly into her phone. Janae and Vivian looked at each other across the small apartment. I'm scared, Vivian admitted. Me too. But we're doing this anyway. Yeah, we're doing this anyway. Vivian reached across the table and took Janae's hand. Whatever happens, I want you to know something. You changed my life yesterday. You saw me when I was invisible. You believed me when no one else would. No matter how this ends, that matters. That means everything. You changed my life too, Janae said. You reminded me that I'm worth fighting for. That my voice matters. That I don't have to stay small to stay safe. They sat there, hands clasped, two women from different worlds who'd found each other in the fire. Outside, the city woke up around them. News vans were probably already circling. Preston's lawyers were probably strategizing. The system was probably grinding forward, ready to crush them both. But in this moment, in this tiny apartment in Dorchester, they had each other. They had the truth. And they had the choice to stand up and fight. Consequences be damned. Walsh came back in, her face unreadable. Okay, I made some calls. Your parole meeting is still on, Janae, but I'll be there with you. I'm bringing documentation of everything that happened, character witnesses, the works. We're going to fight this. And the interview? Vivian asked. I've got someone. Claire Martinez, investigative journalist with the Globe. She's good, fair, and she's already been digging into the Hartwell story. She wants to meet with you both this afternoon, before Janae's parole meeting. Off camera first, just to hear your story. Then we'll decide how to proceed. Off camera, Vivian looked relieved. Baby steps. Let's see how you do telling your story to one person in a room. Then we'll talk about cameras. A timer went off on Janae's phone. She looked at it and laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. I forgot. I set a reminder last week. Today's my day to call Destiny. My supervised phone call, 10 a.m. every Wednesday. Then you call her, Vivian said firmly. Right now? That's the most important thing. But, no buts. Your daughter comes first. Everything else can wait 10 minutes. So Janae dialed her mother's number with shaking hands. When her mother answered, Janae could hear Destiny's voice in the background, excited and high-pitched. Is that Mama? Is that my Mama? Hey, baby girl, Janae said, and her voice broke. It's Mama. I miss you so much. Vivian and Walsh quietly moved to the other side of the room, giving her privacy. Janae sat on the edge of her bed and talked to her daughter, listening to stories about school and friends and a new drawing she'd made of a butterfly. When are you coming to see me, Mama? Destiny asked, her voice so small and hopeful it physically hurt. Soon, baby. Real soon. Mama's working on it. And when I do, I'm never leaving again. I promise. You always say that. I know. But this time I mean it. This time Mama's fighting harder than she's ever fought. Because you're worth it. You're worth everything. Preston Hartwell was systematically drugging his wife to make her appear mentally incompetent, so he could have her committed and take control of her $30 million trust fund. He hired someone to pose as medical staff, falsified psychiatric reports, and had commitment papers drawn up. And all of this was happening in plain sight, in one of Boston's wealthiest neighborhoods, with staff and visitors coming and going. How did no one notice? People noticed, Vivian said quietly. The other staff, my friends, even my mother. They all noticed I was different. But Preston had already built the narrative. His poor, troubled wife. Her fragile mental health. Her family history of depression. When people saw me confused or forgetful, they saw what he'd told them to see. A woman falling apart, not a woman being torn apart. And you, Janae? Claire turned to her. You're on parole, you're fighting for custody of your daughter, and you risk everything to help someone you barely know. What? Janae thought about how to answer that. About all the complicated reasons, the guilt and the anger and the desperate hope that doing the right thing might somehow balance out the scales of her past mistakes. Because I know what it feels like to be invisible, she said finally. To be screaming for help and have everyone look right through you. 3 years ago, I was in a bad situation. I had a boyfriend who was dealing drugs out of our apartment, and I was too scared to leave, too scared to tell anyone. When the police came, I panicked. I lied for him. Told them I didn't know what was in those bags. Didn't see him with anything illegal. I was charged as an accessory. Lost my daughter. Lost everything. She swallowed hard. For 3 years, I've been trying to convince people I'm not that scared girl anymore. That I learned my lesson. But the truth is, I was still her. Still invisible. Still quiet. Still just trying to survive without making waves. Until yesterday. Yesterday, I saw Vivian drowning, and I couldn't be that girl anymore. I couldn't walk away and live with myself. Claire was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I'd like to include that in the story. Your story, I mean. Not just what you did yesterday, but where you came from. Why it matters that someone with everything to lose chose to act anyway. Would you be comfortable with that? My record is going to come out anyway, Janae said. Preston's lawyers will make sure of it. They'll use it to discredit me, to make me look unreliable. At least this way, I get to tell it in my own words first. What about your custody case? Won't this make it harder? Everything makes it harder. At least this way, my daughter will know I tried. That I stood up for something. That's worth more than a clean record built on staying silent. Claire turned the recorder on. Okay, let's start from the beginning. And this time, I'm recording. Vivian, tell me about the first time you realized your husband was drugging you. The interview lasted 2 hours. They walked through everything, from the early days of Vivian's marriage to Preston, to the slow escalation of control, to the appearance of Miss Brennan and the fog that had descended over Vivian's life. They talked about the locked drawer, the documents, the moment when Janae had walked into that bedroom and changed everything. Claire asked hard questions. She pushed for details, for specifics, for the kind of concrete evidence that would make the story undeniable. But she did it gently, with compassion, pausing when Vivian's voice broke. giving them time to collect themselves. When they finished, Claire turned off the recorder and sat back. "This is going to be big," she said. "National news big. Every outlet in the country is going to pick it up. Preston Hartwell is a major figure in the pharmaceutical industry, and this story has everything. Wealth, betrayal, attempted murder, a dramatic rescue. It's going to explode. Is that good or bad for us?" Janae asked. "Both. The attention will make it harder for his lawyers to bury this, harder for him to control the narrative. But it also means you're both going to be under a microscope. Every detail of your lives will be examined. People will take sides. Some will call you heroes. Others will call you liars, opportunists, worse. You need to be prepared for that." "I'm already being called that," Vivian said. "Preston's people have been leaking stories since last night. They're saying I'm mentally ill, vindictive, possibly trying to extort money from him. I know. I've seen the coverage. That's why we need to move fast. I want to run this story tomorrow morning. Front page, above the fold. I want your faces and your words out there before they can twist this any further. But I need your permission. Both of you." Janae looked at Vivian. Vivian looked back. In that glance, they had an entire conversation. This was it. The point of no return. Once this story ran, their lives would never be private again. They'd be defined by this moment, by this choice, forever. "Do it," Vivian said. "Run the story." "Janae, run it." Claire smiled, and it was fierce and satisfied. "Good. I'll have the photos taken this afternoon. We'll need pictures of both of you. And Vivian, I'm going to need you to give me access to the financial documents, the medical records, everything. I want this story airtight. I don't want his lawyers to have any room to wiggle. You'll have everything." As they were leaving the Globe offices, Officer Walsh called. Her voice was tense. "We have a problem. Your parole officer just moved your meeting up. He wants to see you in an hour, not at 2. And he's bringing someone from the DA's office. I think they're planning to revoke you today, Janae. Right now, before the story breaks." Janae felt the ground tilt beneath her. Can they do that? Can they just decide to revoke me without a hearing? They can detain you pending a hearing. And once you're detained, it's almost impossible to get released. You could be sitting in jail for weeks while they schedule the formal proceedings. But I didn't violate anything. They'll say you did. Associating with known criminals, engaging in behavior that brought negative attention to the parole system, failure to notify your officer of a major life change. They can make anything sound like a violation if they want to. Vivian grabbed Janae's arm. "We need a lawyer. Right now. I can't afford a lawyer. I told you, I'm paying for it. Walsh, who's the best criminal defense attorney in Boston?" "That would be Daniel Rothstein. But he's expensive. We're talking thousands, just for a consultation." "I don't care. Get him on the phone. Tell him it's urgent. Tell him I'll pay whatever he asks." While Walsh made the call, Janae stood on the sidewalk outside the Globe building, watching traffic rush past, feeling like she was about to shatter. This was it. This was the moment her parole officer had been waiting for. An excuse to send her back, to prove she was still the same screw-up she'd always been. And if she went back to jail now, she'd miss the custody hearing. Miss her chance. Lose destiny for good. "No," she said out loud. "No, I'm not going down without a fight." Walsh lowered her phone. "Rothstein will meet us at the parole office. He's on his way now. But Janae, you need to understand something. Even with him there, this could go badly. They might still revoke you. You need to be prepared for that. If they revoke me, how long before I get a hearing? Could be anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months. My custody hearing is in 3 weeks." "I know." The three of them stood there on the sidewalk, the weight of it settling over them like ash. 3 weeks. 21 days. It might as well be forever. "We go anyway," Vivian said firmly. "We walk in there with our heads high, with the best lawyer money can buy, and we fight. That's what we do now. We fight." They took a cab to the parole office, a gray building in Roxbury that smelled like bureaucracy and broken dreams. Daniel Rothstein was already waiting outside, a tall man in his 50s with silver hair and an expensive suit. He shook their hands briskly. "I've been briefed on the basics. Officer Walsh filled me in. I've also been following the news coverage. Mrs. Hartwell, Ms. Washington, I want you to know that what you did yesterday was heroic, and I'm going to make sure the parole board understands that. But I need you to follow my lead in there. Let me do the talking unless I ask you a direct question." "Understood." They nodded. Inside, Officer Chun was waiting in a small conference room with a woman Janae didn't recognize. She was in her 40s, with a severe haircut and a folder thick with papers. "This is Assistant District Attorney Linda Morrison," Chen said. "She's here to discuss concerns about Ms. Washington's compliance with her parole terms." Rothstein didn't miss a beat. "Daniel Rothstein, representing Ms. Washington. And I'd like to know what those concerns are, because my client has been in full compliance with every term of her parole. She's maintained steady employment, attended all scheduled meetings, and committed no new crimes. In fact, she prevented a serious crime from being committed and likely saved a woman's life." Morrison opened her folder. "Ms. Washington was involved in an altercation that resulted in injury to another person. She entered areas of her employer's home without authorization. She photographed private documents without permission. And she has become embroiled in a high-profile legal case that reflects poorly on the integrity of the parole system. She witnessed an attempted assault and called the police. She accessed areas of the home at the explicit request of the homeowner, Mrs. Hartwell, who was in danger. She documented evidence of a crime in progress. And the only thing that reflects poorly on the parole system is this attempt to punish her for doing the right thing. The terms of her parole require her to avoid any situation that could bring negative attention or legal complications. This situation has done both. The terms of her parole require her to obey the law and maintain good moral character. She's done exactly that. If this board revokes her for being a good Samaritan, for standing up for someone in danger, then you're sending a message that parolees should look the other way when they see crimes being committed. Is that really the message you want to send?" The room went silent. Chun and Morrison exchanged glances. Janae could see them recalculating, realizing that this wasn't going to be as simple as they'd hoped. "There's also the matter of her employment," Morrison said, switching tactics. "She's been terminated from her position at the Hartwell residence. Without stable employment, she's in violation of her terms. She was wrongfully terminated in retaliation for reporting a crime," Rothstein countered. "That termination won't stand. In fact, I'd be happy to file a wrongful termination suit against Preston Hartwell on her behalf. I'm sure the headlines would be fascinating. She still doesn't have a job." "I do. Actually," Vivian spoke up, ignoring Rothstein's sharp look. "As of this morning, I've hired Janae as my personal assistant. Full-time position, competitive salary, benefits included. She starts immediately." Everyone turned to stare at her. "You can't just make up a job," Morrison said. "I'm not making it up. I need someone I can trust, someone who has my back while I navigate this legal nightmare my husband has created. Janae has proven she's that person. I'm paying her $70,000 a year, which is more than fair market value for the position. If you'd like documentation, I can have my accountant send over the employment contract by end of day." $70,000. Janae's head spun. That was more money than she'd ever made in her life. More than she'd dreamed of making. Rothstein recovered quickly. "So Ms. Washington has stable employment. She has a clean record except for the conviction that put her on parole in the first place. She has strong community ties. She's working toward regaining custody of her daughter. And she performed an act of moral courage that likely saved a life. On what grounds, exactly, are you proposing to revoke her?" Chun and Morrison huddled together, whispering. Finally, Chun spoke. "We're not revoking her parole at this time. But Ms. Washington is now on intensive supervision. Weekly check-ins instead of monthly. Random home visits. Any deviation from her schedule must be reported in advance. And if there are any further incidents, any at all, we will revisit this decision. Is that clear?" "Crystal," Rothstein said. Janae could barely breathe. She'd expected the worst, had braced for handcuffs and a cell. Instead, she was walking out. Still free. Still fighting. They left the building in a daze. On the sidewalk outside, Vivian turned to her. "I meant what I said in there. About the job. I need you, Janae. Not because I'm trying to buy your loyalty or keep you obligated. Because you're the only person I trust right now. The only person who sees me as a human being instead of a problem to be managed or an asset to be controlled. Will you take it? $70,000 to be your personal assistant. To be my friend. To stand with me through whatever comes next. To help me figure out who I am now that I'm free from Preston. That's worth far more than $70,000, but it's what I can afford to pay." Janae thought about her studio apartment, about destiny, about the years of scraping by and never quite making it, about what $70,000 could mean. A better lawyer for her custody case. A bigger apartment where Destiny could have her own room. Stability. Security. Hope. But more than that, she thought about the woman standing in front of her. The woman who'd stood up in that police station and defended her. Who'd offered her shelter when she had nowhere to go. Who'd looked at a maid with a criminal record and seen someone worth fighting for. Yes, Janae said. I'll take it. They hugged right there on the sidewalk. Two women who'd been strangers 48 hours ago and were now bound together by something stronger than money or obligation. By choice. By loyalty. By the recognition that they'd saved each other's lives and would keep saving them as many times as it took. Walsh's phone rang. She answered, listened, then looked at them with an expression of grim satisfaction. That was my contact at the DA's office. Lawrence Peterman just took a plea deal. He's cooperating, giving testimony against Preston in exchange for a reduced sentence. He's going to tell them everything about the plan to commit Vivian, about the fake medical reports, about Preston's instructions. The DA is filing additional charges against Preston this afternoon. Wire fraud, attempted kidnapping, conspiracy to commit assault. Will it stick? Vivian asked. With Peterman's testimony and the documentary evidence? Yeah, it'll stick. Preston Hartwell is going down. Rothstein's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and smiled. And it just got better. I have a contact at Hartwell Industries. The board of directors just called an emergency meeting. They're suspending Preston from his position pending the outcome of the criminal case. His reputation is collapsing in real time. Janae felt something unfamiliar bloom in her chest. Not quite hope, not yet, but something close to it. The sense that maybe, just maybe, they were actually going to win this. What happens now? She asked. Now, Rothstein said, we prepare. The preliminary hearing is next week. Preston's lawyers are going to come at both of you hard. They'll try to discredit your testimony, dig into your pasts, paint you as conspirators or opportunists or worse. We need to be ready with documentation, with witnesses, with an airtight narrative that makes it impossible for them to twist the truth. And the Globe story? Vivian asked. That runs tomorrow. It'll change everything. Public opinion will shift. The pressure on the DA's office to prosecute aggressively will increase. And Preston's ability to control the narrative will evaporate. Walsh checked her watch. We need to get moving. Claire wants photos for the article. And Vivian, you need to decide where you're staying long-term. You can't keep sleeping on Janae's couch. Why not? Vivian asked. It's comfortable. And I like it there. I feel safe. A woman with $30 million sleeping on a couch in Dorchester, Walsh said with a slight smile. The press is going to have a field day with that. Let them. I'm done living my life based on what other people think I should do. If I want to stay with my friend in her tiny apartment, that's exactly what I'll do. Janae felt tears prick her eyes. Friend. Such a simple word, but it meant everything. They spent the rest of the afternoon at the Globe, having photos taken, reviewing the story with Claire, making sure every fact was airtight. It was exhausting, emotionally draining, but also strangely exhilarating. They were taking control, fighting back, refusing to be silenced. By the time they got back to Janae's apartment that evening, the sun was setting over Dorchester, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. They climbed the 3 flights of stairs, unlocked the door, and collapsed on the couch together. I can't believe that was all one day, Vivian said. It feels like a year. Tomorrow's going to be worse. Once that story hits. I know. Vivian was quiet for a moment. Then, Janae, can I ask you something? What was it like, losing Destiny? How did you survive it? Janae thought about how to answer. About the nights she'd cried herself to sleep. About the supervised visits that felt like torture. About the way her arms felt empty for months afterward. I didn't survive it, she said honestly. Part of me died the day they took her. The part that believed things would work out. That being a good person was enough. I had to become someone else to keep going. Someone harder. Someone who didn't let herself feel too much, because feeling anything meant feeling everything. And that was unbearable. But you kept fighting for her. Because she's mine. Because I brought her into this world, and I owe her better than what I gave her. Because every time I wanted to give up, I'd think about her asking where her mama was, and I couldn't let the answer be she stopped trying. So I didn't. I kept showing up, kept doing the work, kept believing that someday I'd be enough. You are enough, Vivian said fiercely. You're more than enough. And you're going to get her back. I'm going to make sure of it. You can't promise that. Watch me. I have money now, real money. My father's trust. Preston can't touch it, no matter what his lawyers claim. And I'm going to use it. For the best custody lawyers, for a bigger apartment if you need one, for whatever it takes. You saved my life. The least I can do is help you reclaim yours. Janae wanted to argue, wanted to say it was too much, that she couldn't accept that kind of help. But the truth was, she was tired of fighting alone. Tired of pretending she didn't need anyone. Tired of believing that accepting help was the same as admitting weakness. Okay, she whispered. Okay, thank you. They sat there in the growing darkness, neither of them moving to turn on a light. Outside, the city hummed and buzzed, oblivious to the revolution happening in this small apartment. Two women who'd been invisible becoming visible. Two women who'd been silenced finding their voices. Two women who'd been alone discovering they were stronger together than they'd ever been apart. Tomorrow, the story would break. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, they had this. They had each other. They had the truth. And somehow, impossibly, that felt like enough. The Boston Globe landed on doorsteps across the city at 6 in the morning. By 6:30, social media had exploded. By 7, national news outlets were picking up the story. By 8, Janae and Vivian were trending on Twitter. The headline read, "The Maid Who Saw. How Janae Washington Saved Vivian Hartwell from Her Husband's Plot to Steal Her Fortune." Claire had done her job well. The article was meticulous, devastating, impossible to dismiss. It included photos of the documents, quotes from Officer Walsh, confirmation from the DA's office about the charges against Preston. And front and center were photos of Janae and Vivian, sitting side by side, looking directly at the camera with expressions that dared anyone to call them liars. Janae's phone started ringing at 6:45 a.m. and didn't stop. News outlets, talk shows, podcasts, everyone wanted an interview. Her social media accounts, which she barely used, were flooded with messages. Most were supportive, calling her a hero, praising her courage. But others were vicious. Gold digger. She's just trying to get money from a rich white woman. Probably made the whole thing up. Convenient how the maid suddenly becomes best friends with the millionaire wife. Check her record. She's a criminal. Can't trust anything she says. Vivian's phone was worse. Messages from people she'd considered friends, people from her college years, people from Preston's social circle, all of them either professing shock and support or accusing her of destroying a good man's reputation. Her mother called at 7:15. Vivian stared at the screen for a long moment before answering, putting it on speaker so Janae could hear. Vivian Louise Hartwell. Her mother's voice was cold, clipped, the tone of someone who'd been up all night strategizing. "What have you done?" "Hello, Mother. I assume you saw the Globe. The entire country has seen the Globe. Do you have any idea what you've done to this family? To our name?" Preston's mother is beside herself. "The Hartwells have been pillars of Boston society for 3 generations, and you've made us all look like fools. Preston tried to have me committed so he could steal my inheritance. He drugged me. He hired someone to falsify medical records. He was going to lock me away forever, and you're worried about the family name? Preston was trying to help you. You've been unwell, darling. We've all seen it. The forgetfulness, the paranoia, the wild accusations. He was doing what any good husband would do, trying to get you proper care." Vivian's hand tightened around the phone. "You actually believe that? After everything that's come out, after all the evidence, you actually believe him over me? I believe that you've always been fragile. Ever since your father died, you've struggled. And now you've latched onto this woman. She said the word like it tasted bad, and she's filled your head with ideas. Probably hoping for a payout. Her name is Janae, and she saved my life. She's using you, Vivian. Can't you see that?" A woman with a criminal record, no education, no prospects, suddenly becomes best friends with a wealthy woman in crisis? It's textbook manipulation, and you're too naive to see it. Janae felt the words hit like physical blows. All her worst fears, everything she'd worried people would think, coming out of the mouth of Vivian's own mother. "You're wrong," Vivian said, her voice shaking with fury. "You're so wrong it's actually stunning. Janae had nothing to gain from helping me. She risked her job, her freedom, her chance to get her daughter back. She did it because it was right. Because she has more integrity in her little finger than Preston has in his entire body. And the fact that you can't see that you'd rather protect a man who tried to destroy me than believe your own daughter, tells me everything I need to know about you. Vivian, I'm done, Mother. I'm done trying to be the daughter you want. I'm done caring what the Hartwells think. I'm done pretending that money and status matter more than truth and decency. Don't call me again unless you're ready to apologize." She hung up. Her hands were shaking so badly, she dropped the phone. Janae caught it, setting it on the table, then pulled Vivian into a hug. "I'm sorry," Janae said. "I'm so sorry she said those things." "Don't be sorry. She showed me who she really is. I needed to see that." Vivian pulled back, wiping her eyes. "God, I thought maybe she'd surprise me. I thought maybe when she saw the evidence, heard the truth, she'd choose me. But she didn't. She chose reputation. She chose the easy lie over the hard truth. My mama did that too at first. When I got arrested, when I lost Destiny. She was so ashamed. Told me I'd embarrassed the family, made her look bad. Took her a year to come around, to see that I was trying to fix things. Did your relationship recover? Mostly. It's different now. There's love, but there's also distance. Some hurts don't fully heal, they just scab over. We work around them." Vivian nodded slowly. "I think that's what this will be with my mother. If she ever comes around at all." A knock at the door made them both jump. Janae looked through the peephole and saw Officer Walsh and Daniel Rothstein, both carrying briefcases and looking grim. She let them in. Walsh held up her phone, showing a news alert. "Preston's lawyers just released a statement. They're going on the offensive." Rothstein opened his briefcase and pulled out a printed press release. Preston Hartwell categorically denies all allegations made against him. He maintains that his wife, Vivian Hartwell, suffers from serious mental health issues and has been manipulated by an opportunistic employee with a criminal history. Mr. Hartwell's only goal has been to ensure his wife receives the psychiatric care she desperately needs. He is devastated by these false accusations and will vigorously defend himself against all charges. He has full confidence that the truth will prevail. "They're doubling down," Vivian said. "They don't have a choice. The evidence against him is too strong. Their only play is to attack your credibility, make the public question whether you're reliable witnesses." Rothstein set the paper down. "Which is why we need to be prepared. The preliminary hearing is in 5 days. They're going to put you both on the stand, and they're going to try to tear you apart." "What kind of questions?" Janae asked. "For you, Vivian, they'll focus on your mental state. Any history of depression, anxiety, therapy. They'll bring up times you might have seemed confused or forgetful, even if Preston was the cause. They'll try to paint you as unreliable, emotionally unstable, someone whose testimony can't be trusted." "And for me?" Janae asked, though she already knew. "Your criminal record, the circumstances of your arrest, your relationship with your daughter's father, your custody situation. They'll suggest you had a financial motive, that you saw an opportunity to ingratiate yourself with a wealthy woman and took it. They'll question why someone in your position would risk everything unless there was something to gain. So they're going to make us both look like we're either crazy or greedy. That's the plan. But we're going to counter it. We have Peterman's testimony. We have the documents. We have Officer Walsh's account of what she saw when she arrived. We have the medical analysis of the drugs Peterman was trying to inject. The evidence is on our side. But evidence doesn't always win," Vivian said quietly. "Not when the other side has unlimited money and connections. No, it doesn't always win. But it wins more often than you think. Especially when the story is this clear, this compelling. You're not asking people to believe something complicated or ambiguous. You're asking them to believe that a rich man tried to steal his wife's money by having her declared incompetent. It's a tale as old as time. And juries, judges, the public, they understand that story." Walsh's phone rang. She answered, listened, then cursed under her breath. "We have a problem. A news van just pulled up outside. Someone tipped them off that you're staying here, Janae. There's going to be reporters at your door in about 2 minutes." "How did they find me?" "Public records, probably. Your address is on your parole paperwork, your employment history. Once reporters start digging, nothing stays private." Janae went to the window and looked down. Sure enough, a van with a satellite dish was parked across the street, and people with cameras were climbing out. "We need to move you both," Rothstein said. "Somewhere secure, somewhere the press can't camp outside. A hotel under an assumed name, or..." "No." Vivian stood up, her face set with determination. "No more hiding. I've been hiding my whole life. Hiding behind Preston's reputation, hiding behind closed doors, letting other people tell my story. I'm done with that. If they want to ask questions, let them ask. I'll answer. Mrs. Hartwell, I strongly advise against. I don't care. I'm not running. Janae didn't run when she walked into that bedroom. The least I can do is stand in front of some cameras and tell the truth. Janae felt a surge of pride mixed with terror. If you're doing this, I'm doing it with you. Neither of you has to, Walsh began. Yes, we do, Janae said firmly. You said it yourself. They're going to attack our credibility. So let them see us. Let them ask their questions. Let the public decide who they believe. Rothstein looked between them and sighed. All right, but we do this smart. No impromptu interviews. No answering questions you're not prepared for. I'll go down first. Tell them you're willing to make a brief statement. 2 minutes, no questions. You say what you need to say, and we walk away. Understood. They nodded. 10 minutes later, they stood on the sidewalk outside Janae's building, facing a wall of cameras and microphones. Reporters shouted over each other, a cacophony of questions. Mrs. Hartwell, do you stand by your accusations? Ms. Washington, what's your response to claims you're exploiting Mrs. Hartwell? Is there a romantic relationship between you two? How much money have you been paid? Rothstein held up his hand, and gradually the noise died down. My clients will make a brief statement. No questions at this time. Vivian stepped forward. In the morning light, she looked younger than her 33 years, but also stronger, more solid. The fog that had surrounded her just days ago was completely gone. My name is Vivian Hartwell, she said, her voice clear and steady. 5 days ago, my husband tried to have me committed to a psychiatric facility so he could take control of my trust fund. He hired someone to drug me, falsified medical records, and told everyone I was mentally ill. I was hours away from losing everything, my freedom, my sanity, my life. And then Janae Washington walked into my bedroom and saved me. She turned to Janae, taking her hand. This woman, who had every reason to walk away, who knew it would cost her dearly, chose to help me anyway. She's not exploiting me. She's not using me. She's my friend. She's the bravest person I've ever met. And anyone who tries to discredit her will have to go through me first. The cameras clicked and flashed. Janae squeezed Vivian's hand, then stepped forward herself. My name is Janae Washington, she said, her voice not quite as steady but just as determined. I'm a 29-year-old mother fighting to regain custody of my daughter. I made mistakes in my past, mistakes I'm not proud of, but I've spent 3 years trying to be better, to prove I deserve a second chance. When I saw what was happening to Vivian, I had a choice. I could protect myself, or I could help her. I chose to help, and I'd make that choice again, every single time, no matter what it costs me. Because that's the kind of person I want my daughter to know. Someone who stands up. Someone who doesn't look away. She took a breath. Preston Hartwell is powerful. He has money and lawyers and connections. But he doesn't have the truth. We do. And we're not backing down. The reporters erupted with questions again, but Rothstein was already ushering them back inside, Walsh blocking the crowd from following. They made it to the building entrance and slipped inside, the door closing behind them, muffling the noise. In the stairwell, they all stopped, catching their breath. Janae was shaking, adrenaline coursing through her. Vivian was pale, but smiling. We did it, Vivian said. We actually did it. You were amazing, Walsh said. Both of you. That's going to play on every news station in the country by noon. Good, Janae said. Let them see us. Let them hear our side before Preston's lawyers can twist it. They climbed back up to the apartment. Once inside, Rothstein's phone started ringing immediately. He answered, listened, and his expression shifted from serious to shocked. When he asked, "Are you sure?" "All right. Thank you." He lowered the phone. "That was my contact at Hartwell Industries. The board just voted. Preston's been removed as CEO, effective immediately. They're distancing themselves from him as fast as they can." "Because of the charges?" Vivian asked. "Because of public opinion. The story's gone viral. #BelieveVivian is trending. There are already think pieces being written about wealth, control, and how the system protects abusive men. The board can't afford to be associated with him right now. He's toxic." Janae pulled out her phone and searched the hashtag. Thousands of tweets, maybe tens of thousands. Women sharing their own stories of not being believed, of men using power to silence them. Threads analyzing the case, dissecting Preston's tactics, drawing parallels to other high-profile abuse cases. And mixed in, photos of her and Vivian from this morning, standing together, holding hands. "People believe us," she said wonderingly. "Not everyone," Walsh cautioned. "There's plenty of pushback too. Preston has his defenders. People saying you're both lying, that this is a shakedown, that the hashtag #MeToo movement has gone too far. It's getting ugly out there." "Let it get ugly," Vivian said. "Ugly means people are paying attention. Ugly means this matters." A text came through on Janae's phone. Her mother. "I saw you on the news. Baby, I'm so proud of you. You call me later, okay? I love you." Then another text, this one from a number she didn't recognize. "Ms. Washington, this is Judge Patricia Morrison from Family Court. I've been following your case. I'd like to move up your custody hearing. Are you available next Tuesday?" Janae's heart stopped. Next Tuesday. That was in 4 days. 4 days to prepare, to prove she was ready, to convince a judge to give her back her daughter. "Vivian," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The judge wants to move up my custody hearing to next Tuesday." Vivian's face lit up. "That's good. That's really good. It means she's paying attention, that she sees what you did. She wants to hear your side. Or it means she wants to deny me while the publicity is high, to make an example of me." Rothstein took the phone, reading the message. "No, Judge Morrison is fair. If she's moving this up, it's because she thinks you have a shot. She wants to hear your case before the media circus gets worse, before Preston's lawyers can muddy the waters. This is an opportunity. I'm not ready. I don't have everything in order. I was supposed to have 3 more weeks to prepare. You don't need 3 more weeks. You have everything you need right now. You have stable employment, thanks to Vivian. You have a clean record since your parole. You have character witnesses. And now you have the entire country watching you stand up for what's right. That matters, Janae. That shows the judge who you are. What if it's not enough?" Vivian took her hands, forcing Janae to look at her. "Then we fight harder. We get you the best family lawyer money can buy. We show that judge every single thing you've done to rebuild your life. We bring in witnesses who can testify to your character. And we make it impossible for her to say no. I can't afford." "Stop. Stop saying you can't afford things. You're not alone anymore. I'm here. My resources are your resources. We're in this together, remember? All the way through." Janae felt tears spill over. For so long, she'd been fighting alone, scraping by, making do, telling herself she didn't need help because needing help meant admitting weakness. But this wasn't weakness. This was partnership. This was what it meant to have someone in your corner. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, let's do it." Rothstein was already making calls, pulling together a family law specialist, preparing documents, building the case. Walsh was coordinating with the DA's office about Preston's trial, making sure everything was aligned. And Vivian was sitting beside Janae, their hands still clasped, 2 women who'd found each other in the fire and refused to let go. Outside, the news vans were multiplying. The story was spreading. The world was watching. But in this moment, in this small apartment in Dorchester, surrounded by a 6-year-old's drawings of princesses and butterflies, Janae felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. Real, solid, terrifying hope. For days until the custody hearing. 5 days until Preston's preliminary hearing. A lifetime of consequences balanced on the edge of a knife. But they weren't alone anymore. They had each other. They had the truth. And somehow, impossibly, that felt like it might actually be enough. What would you risk to help someone in need? Would you stand up even if it meant losing everything you'd fought for? The custody hearing was scheduled for Tuesday at 10 a.m. By Monday night, Janae hadn't slept in 36 hours. She sat at her small table with files spread everywhere, documents about her employment, her parole compliance, letters of recommendation that Rothstein's team had gathered from everyone who'd ever known her. Patricia from the Hartwell estate, her parole officer, who'd grudgingly admitted she'd never caused trouble. Even Maria, the cook, who wrote that Janae was the kindest person she'd ever worked with. But none of it felt like enough. Vivian had barely left her side for 3 days. She'd hired the best family law attorney in Boston, a woman named Rebecca Chun who'd been fighting custody cases for 20 years and had a reputation for winning impossible battles. Rebecca had interviewed Janae for hours, preparing her for every question the judge might ask, every angle the state's attorney might take. "They're going to bring up the Hartwell incident," Rebecca had said. "They're going to suggest that you put yourself in a dangerous situation, that you showed poor judgment, that you prioritized a stranger over your own custody case. You need to be ready to explain why you did what you did without sounding defensive. How do I do that? You tell the truth. You tell the judge that you saw someone in danger and you couldn't walk away. That the values you want to teach your daughter, courage and compassion and standing up for what's right, aren't just words. They're actions. And that day, you showed your daughter's future self what kind of woman her mother is. Now, with less than 12 hours until the hearing, Janae stared at a photo of Destiny that her mother had sent. 6 years old, grinning with 2 missing front teeth, holding a drawing she'd made. It showed 2 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. "Me and Mama" was written across the top in wobbly letters. "She still believes in me," Janae whispered. "After all this time, she still thinks I'm coming back for her." Vivian sat down beside her. "You are coming back for her. Tomorrow, you're going to walk into that courtroom and you're going to show that judge exactly who you are. And she's going to see what I see. What everyone who really knows you sees. Someone worth believing in. What if it's not enough? What if the judge looks at my record, looks at the headlines, looks at all the chaos of the past week and decides I'm too much of a risk? Then we appeal. We fight. We don't stop until you get her back. I'm so tired of fighting, Vivian. I'm so tired of always being on the edge, always one mistake away from losing everything. Sometimes I think maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not cut out to be her mother. Maybe she deserves better than someone who can't seem to get her life together." "Stop." Vivian's voice was sharp, cutting through Janae's spiral. "Stop doing that. You are her mother. Not because you're perfect, but because you love her. Because you've spent 3 years clawing your way back to her, one day at a time, never giving up even when it would have been easier to walk away. That's what makes you her mother. Not some perfect record or some ideal life situation. Love. Persistence. The refusal to abandon her even when the whole world told you to move on." Janae's phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "I told Destiny you're coming to get her soon. She's packing her backpack with things to bring to Boston. She wants to bring her stuffed elephant and her favorite books and the drawing she made you. Baby, please don't let her down. I don't think her heart could take it." The words hit like a punch to the gut. Don't let her down. As if Janae had any control over what happened tomorrow. As if wanting something badly enough could make it real. "I need air," Janae said, standing abruptly. "I need to get out of here for a minute." She grabbed her jacket and headed for the door. Vivian followed without asking permission, and Janae was grateful. She didn't want to be alone, even if she'd said she needed air. What she really needed was to not feel like the walls were closing in. They walked through Dorchester in the October night, past corner stores and row houses, past people sitting on stoops and cars cruising slowly down the street. This was Janae's neighborhood, her world, so different from Vivian's Beacon Hill life. But Vivian walked beside her like she belonged, like the distance between their 2 worlds had collapsed into nothing. "Can I tell you something?" Vivian said after a while. "Something I've never told anyone?" "Of course. When my father died, I was 25. He had a heart attack, sudden and unexpected. One day he was fine, the next he was gone. And I fell apart. Completely fell apart. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't function. My mother put me in therapy, but I wasn't getting better. I was getting worse." She paused, her hands shoved deep in her jacket pockets. "I met Preston 6 months after my father died. At a charity gala my mother dragged me to. He was charming, attentive, successful. Everything my father had been. And I latched onto him like a life raft. I thought he was saving me. I thought he was giving me a reason to keep living. But he wasn't. No, he was isolating me. Slowly, carefully, cutting me off from my friends, from my mother, from anyone who might question him. He'd say things like, 'I'm the only one who really understands you, and other people don't see how special you are, but I do.' And I believed him because I was desperate to believe someone saw value in me." Vivian stopped walking, turning to face Janae. "By the time I realized what was happening, I was trapped. He controlled my money, my social life, my daily routine. And when I started to push back, when I started to remember who I'd been before him, he started the campaign to make me think I was losing my mind. Little things at first. Moving my keys, and then acting concerned when I couldn't find them. Telling me I'd said things I had no memory of saying. Making me doubt my own reality. That's gaslighting. Classic abuse. I know that now. But at the time, I genuinely thought I was going crazy. And the more I thought that, the more I retreated, the more I needed him to tell me what was real. It was a perfect trap. He'd created the problem and positioned himself as the solution. So what changed? How did you start to see through it? Tuesday afternoons, Vivian said with a slight smile. When Miss Brennan wasn't there, when the drugs started to wear off, I'd have these moments of clarity. And in those moments, I'd remember who I used to be. I'd remember that I used to be strong, capable, independent. And I'd think what happened to her. Where did she go? That's when I started leaving myself notes, hiding them where Preston wouldn't find them. Reminders that I wasn't crazy, that something was wrong, that I needed to fight back. The locked drawer. That's what you were doing. Yes. Collecting evidence. Documenting everything. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I knew I needed someone to see it. I needed someone outside of Preston's influence to know the truth. And then you walked into my bedroom, and suddenly I had my chance. They started walking again, their footsteps echoing in the quiet street. The reason I'm telling you this, Vivian continued, is because I want you to understand something. I had every advantage. Money, education, a family name, connections. And I still almost disappeared. I still almost let him erase me. You, on the other hand, have been fighting your whole life. Fighting poverty, fighting a system designed to keep people like you down, fighting for your daughter against incredible odds. And you're still here. Still standing. Still fighting. That's not weakness, Janae. That's the strongest thing I've ever seen. Janae felt her throat tighten. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm barely holding it together. Strength isn't about feeling confident. It's about showing up even when you're terrified. It's about putting one foot in front of the other when every instinct tells you to give up. You've been doing that for 3 years. Tomorrow, you just have to do it one more time. They walked in silence for a while longer, eventually circling back toward the apartment. As they climbed the stairs, Janae's phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Ms. Washington? A woman's voice, professional but warm. This is Angela Brooks. I'm a social worker with the Department of Children and Families. I've been assigned to your case to do a home evaluation before tomorrow's hearing. Janae's heart sank. A home evaluation? Now, it's almost 10 o'clock at night. I know, and I apologize for the late notice. But Judge Morrison requested an updated evaluation before the hearing, and this was the only time I could fit it in. I'm actually outside your building right now. Would it be possible for me to come up? Janae looked at Vivian in panic. The apartment was a mess, papers everywhere, 2 people's worth of belongings crammed into a space meant for one. This wasn't the clean, organized home environment that would impress a social worker. Give us 10 minutes, Janae said. I'll buzz you up in 10 minutes. She hung up and immediately started frantically gathering papers, shoving them into folders, trying to make the small space look less chaotic. Vivian jumped in, helping her straighten cushions, wash dishes, create some semblance of order. Why would the judge order a home evaluation the night before the hearing? Janae asked as she worked. That doesn't make sense. Unless she's looking for a reason to deny me. Or she's looking for a reason to approve you, Vivian countered. Maybe she wants to see that you have a stable home, that you're ready. Don't assume the worst. I can't help it. Assuming the worst has kept me alive this long. 10 minutes later, Janae buzzed Angela Brooks into the building. The social worker who climbed the 3 flights of stairs was a black woman in her 40s, carrying a worn briefcase, and wearing a kind expression that immediately put Janae slightly more at ease. Thank you for seeing me on such short notice, Angela said, accepting Janae's offer to sit on the couch. She looked around the apartment, taking in the small space, the drawings on the walls, the careful tidiness. I know this is stressful. I'll try to make it as quick as possible. She pulled out a checklist and started asking questions. Did Janae have stable employment? Yes, she worked for Mrs. Hartwell. Did she have adequate living space? The apartment was small, but it was clean and safe. Did she have support systems in place? She listed her mother in Atlanta, Rebecca Chun, Officer Walsh, Vivian. And Mrs. Hartwell is currently staying with you? Angela asked, glancing at Vivian. Yes, Vivian said. Temporarily, while I deal with my divorce proceedings. But I'm also Janae's employer, and I can provide documentation of her employment contract, salary, benefits, all of it. Angela made notes. I've been following the news coverage of the Hartwell case. It's been quite a story. Ms. Washington, some people might argue that you put yourself in a dangerous situation, that you prioritized helping a stranger over maintaining the stability needed for your custody case. How would you respond to that? Janae had practiced this answer with Rebecca, but sitting here in her own apartment, facing a social worker who held Destiny's fate in her hands, the rehearsed words fled. All she had was the truth. I would say that I want my daughter to grow up knowing her mother is someone who doesn't look away when people need help. That I want to teach her that doing the right thing matters, even when it's hard, even when it costs you. And that if I had let Mrs. Hartwell be hurt when I could have stopped it, just to protect my own interests, I would have been teaching Destiny that we only help people when it's convenient. That's not the lesson I want her to learn. Angela was quiet for a moment, still writing. Then she looked up, and there was something in her eyes that might have been approval. I have a daughter, Angela said quietly. She's 14 now, and I hope that if she ever saw someone in trouble, she'd have the courage to help, even if it was risky, even if it complicated her life. She closed her notebook. Ms. Washington, I'm going to be honest with you. Your case is complicated. You have a criminal record. You've been involved in a high-profile situation that some will see as poor judgment. You're living in a small apartment with your employer, which raises questions about appropriate boundaries. Janae felt her heart sink. But, Angela continued, I've also reviewed 3 years of records showing consistent effort to rebuild your life. I've read letters from people who know you, describing your character, your dedication, your growth. I've seen the stable employment you've secured and the support systems you've built. And I've seen how you've conducted yourself over the past week, with grace under incredible pressure. None of that is easy to dismiss. So what does that mean for tomorrow? It means I'm going to recommend to Judge Morrison that she seriously consider reunification. I'm going to note that while your situation is unconventional, you've demonstrated the values and commitment that make for good parenting. The rest is up to the judge. After Angela left, Janae collapsed on the couch, emotionally exhausted. Vivian sat beside her, not saying anything, just being present. Do you think I have a chance? Janae asked. I think you have more than a chance. I think you're going to walk into that courtroom tomorrow and show them exactly who you are. And I think Destiny is going to come home. I want to believe that. Then believe it. Just for tonight. Let yourself hope. They went to bed early, knowing morning would come too soon. Janae lay in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing through every possible scenario. What she'd say, how the judge would respond, whether it would be enough. At some point, she must have fallen asleep because she woke to Vivian shaking her gently. Janae, it's time. We need to get ready. Tuesday morning. The day that would change everything. Janae showered and dressed in the one professional outfit she owned, a simple black dress and blazer that Vivian had helped her pick out days ago. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked older, more serious, like someone who'd been through fire and survived. Vivian wore a cream-colored suit, elegant but understated. They looked at each other, two women preparing for battle. Whatever happens, Vivian said, I'm proud of you. I want you to know that. Whatever happens, Janae echoed. Thank you. For everything. For seeing me. For standing with me. For making me believe I'm worth fighting for. They held each other for a long moment. Then Rebecca Chin knocked on the door, and it was time to go. The courthouse was packed. News crews outside, cameras flashing as they walked past. Inside, they had to push through crowds of people, reporters shouting questions, supporters holding signs that said, Bring Destiny home, and justice for Janae. When did she get supporters? When did her story become something people cared about? The courtroom was smaller than she expected, more intimate. Judge Patricia Morrison sat at the bench, a black woman in her 50s with intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense expression. The state's attorney was there, a young man with a stack of files. And in the back, in the gallery, Janae's mother sat with Destiny. Destiny, her baby girl, who wasn't a baby anymore. 6 years old, wearing a purple dress, her hair in neat braids, clutching her stuffed elephant. When she saw Janae, her face lit up and she started to wave, but Janae's mother gently stopped her, whispering that she needed to be quiet. Janae's eyes filled with tears. She was right there, so close Janae could almost touch her. All rise, the bailiff called. Judge Morrison looked over her glasses at the assembled group. This is a custody hearing for Destiny Washington, currently in the care of her maternal grandmother, Grace Washington. The petitioner seeking to regain custody is the biological mother, Janae Washington. Let's begin. The state's attorney went first, laying out the history. Janae's arrest 3 years ago, her conviction, the removal of Destiny from her care, her parole, her efforts at rehabilitation, and then the recent events at the Hartwell estate. Your Honor, while Ms. Washington's actions last week may have been well-intentioned, they demonstrate a pattern of poor judgment and risk-taking behavior that raises concerns about her ability to provide stable parenting. She inserted herself into a dangerous situation, became embroiled in a criminal investigation, and garnered national media attention, all while supposedly focusing on regaining custody of her daughter. This suggests that Ms. Washington's priorities may not align with what's best for the child. Rebecca stood up. Your Honor, with respect to my colleague, Ms. Washington didn't insert herself into anything. She witnessed a crime in progress and called the police, which is exactly what any responsible citizen should do. The fact that she did this despite personal risk speaks to her moral character, not against it. She saw someone in danger and chose to help, which is precisely the kind of value we hope parents will instill in their children. The judge made notes, her expression unreadable. Ms. Washington, please take the stand. Janae's legs felt like water as she walked to the witness box. She was sworn in, her hand trembling on the Bible. She sat down and looked at the judge, at Destiny in the gallery, at Vivian sitting behind Rebecca's table. This was it. Everything she'd fought for, everything she'd dreamed about for 3 years, came down to this moment. Judge Morrison looked at her directly. Ms. Washington, tell me why you think you're ready to be Destiny's mother again. And Janae took a breath and told the truth. Not the rehearsed answer, not the practiced speech. Just the raw, honest truth of a mother who'd lost everything and spent 3 years crawling back. I'm not perfect, she said. I made terrible mistakes. I was with the wrong person, I was too scared to do the right thing, and my daughter paid the price for that. For 3 years, I've lived with that guilt every single day. But I've also spent 3 years becoming someone different. Someone stronger. Someone who doesn't run away from hard things anymore. She looked at Destiny. Last week, I saw someone who needed help. And I had a choice. I could walk away, protect myself, protect my custody case, and let something terrible happen. Or I could step up, even knowing it might cost me everything. I chose to step up. Not because I'm reckless or because I don't care about being Destiny's mother, but because I do care. Because I want her to know that her mama is someone who stands up for people. Someone who doesn't let fear control her anymore. Someone who's brave enough to do the right thing, even when it's terrifying. Her voice broke. I love my daughter more than anything in this world. And I'm ready to be her mother. Not a perfect mother, but a real one. One who will show up every day, who will fight for her, who will teach her to be strong and kind and brave. Please, please give me that chance. The courtroom was silent. Judge Morrison was writing, her face still unreadable. Then she looked up. I'd like to speak with Destiny, please. In chambers. The 15 minutes while Judge Morrison spoke with Destiny in her chambers felt like 15 years. Janae sat at the defendant's table, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Vivian had moved to sit directly behind her, close enough that Janae could feel her presence like an anchor. She's going to say she wants to go home with you, Vivian whispered. Of course she is. You're her mother. What if she doesn't remember me well enough? What if 3 years was too long? What if she's more comfortable with my mama now? Then you'll remind her. You'll show her. You'll rebuild that bond, one day at a time. But I don't think you'll have to. I saw her face when she saw you. That little girl loves you, Janae. Anyone could see it. Rebecca was reviewing her notes, preparing for whatever came next. The state's attorney was on his phone, typing rapidly. Janae's mother sat in the gallery with her hands folded in her lap, her face a mixture of hope and worry. She'd raised Destiny for 3 years, loved her, cared for her. Janae knew part of her mother would miss having Destiny around, even if she wanted Janae to succeed. The door to the judge's chambers opened. Destiny came out first, still clutching her elephant, followed by Judge Morrison. The judge's expression was softer than it had been before, something almost gentle in her eyes. Everyone please be seated, Judge Morrison said, settling back at her bench. She looked at Destiny, who was standing uncertainly in the middle of the courtroom. Destiny, honey, go sit with your grandmother for a moment while I talk to the grown-ups, okay? Destiny nodded and ran back to Janae's mother, climbing into her lap. She was staring at Janae the whole time, those big brown eyes so full of hope and confusion and longing it physically hurt to see. Judge Morrison opened a folder and pulled out several documents. She took her time reviewing them, and the silence stretched like taffy. Finally, she spoke. I've been a family court judge for 18 years. In that time, I've seen hundreds of custody cases. Parents fighting for their children, children caught in the middle, families torn apart by circumstances both within and beyond their control. It's never easy. There's never a perfect answer. But I've learned to look for certain things. Genuine remorse. Sustained effort. Real change, not just superficial compliance. She looked directly at Janae. Ms. Washington, 3 years ago, you made serious mistakes. You put yourself in a situation that endangered both you and your daughter. You failed to protect her from an environment that was unsafe. And you lost custody as a consequence. That was appropriate. Children deserve better than what you were able to provide at that time. Janae felt her heart cracking. This was it. This was the denial she'd been dreading. However, Judge Morrison continued, I've also reviewed 3 years of documentation showing consistent, sustained effort on your part to rebuild your life. You've completed every court-mandated program. You've maintained employment, even when it was difficult. You've attended every supervised visitation, never missing one in 3 years. You've worked with therapists, parole officers, and social workers, accepting feedback and making changes. That kind of commitment is not common, Ms. Washington. Many parents give up. You didn't. She paused, glancing at the gallery where Destiny sat. I also had a conversation with your daughter just now. I asked her what she wants. Do you know what she told me? Janae shook her head, unable to speak. She said, I want my mama. I want to go home with my mama. She showed me drawings she's made of the two of you together. She told me about how you read to her on your phone calls, how you remember her favorite color and her favorite foods, how you promised you were working hard to bring her home. She believes in you, Ms. Washington. She has faith that you're coming back for her. Judge Morrison set down her pen. And then there's last week's incident. I've read the reports. I've spoken with Officer Walsh, with the DA's office, with Angela Brooks. What you did was risky, yes, but it was also brave. It was moral. It was exactly the kind of thing we hope people will do when they see someone in danger. And you did it knowing it might jeopardize this very hearing. That tells me your values have changed. That tells me you understand now that sometimes the right choice is the hard choice. She picked up her gavel. Therefore, after careful consideration of all factors, I'm ruling in favor of the petitioner. Full custody of Destiny Washington is hereby restored to Janae Washington, effective immediately. The gavel came down. For a moment, Janae couldn't process what she'd heard. The words didn't make sense. Full custody. Effective immediately. It was too good, too much, too impossible. Then Destiny's voice cut through the fog. Mama? Can I go to my mama now? Yes, sweetheart, Judge Morrison said, smiling. You can go to your mama. Destiny scrambled down from her grandmother's lap and ran. She ran across that courtroom with her elephant flying behind her, her braids bouncing, her little legs pumping as fast as they could carry her. And Janae was already moving, falling to her knees just in time to catch her daughter as she launched herself into her arms. Mama, mama, mama. Destiny was crying, her face buried in Janae's neck, her small arms wrapped around her so tight Janae could barely breathe. You came back. You promised you'd come back, and you did. I did, baby. I'm here. I'm here, and I'm never leaving you again. Never, never, never. Janae was sobbing now, 3 years of grief and guilt and desperate hope pouring out as she held her daughter for the first time in forever. She smelled like baby shampoo and grape juice and everything good in the world. She was solid and real and here. Janae's mother approached slowly, tears streaming down her face. Janae, baby, you did it. You really did it. Thank you, Mama. Thank you for taking care of her. Thank you for believing I could do this. She's yours, baby. She's always been yours. I was just keeping her safe until you were ready. Her mother knelt down, joining the embrace, 3 generations holding on to each other. You make me proud. You hear me? You make me so proud. Behind them, Vivian was crying too, clutching Rebecca's hand. Officer Walsh had appeared in the gallery, grinning widely. Even the bailiff looked moved, wiping at his eyes. Judge Morrison stood. Ms. Washington, there will be a transition period. You'll work with Angela Brooks to ensure Destiny's adjustment goes smoothly. You'll continue with therapy for both yourself and your daughter. You'll maintain your employment and housing stability. And you'll check in with this court every 3 months for the first year. But Destiny goes home with you today. She's yours. Thank you, Janae whispered. Thank you so much, Your Honor. Don't thank me. You did the work. You earned this. Judge Morrison smiled. Now take your daughter home. They had to navigate the crowd outside, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. But Janae barely noticed. She was holding Destiny's hand, and Destiny was chattering non-stop, telling her about school and her friends and all the things she wanted to show her mama when they got home. I have so many drawings for you, Mama. Grandma kept them all in a special box. And I learned to read, Mama. I can read all by myself now. Can I read to you tonight? Before bed? Will you still read me stories? Every single night, baby. Every single night for the rest of your life. They took a cab back to the apartment, Janae's mother coming with them to help with the transition. Destiny was bouncing with excitement, pointing out everything through the window, asking a million questions about Boston and where they'd live and whether she'd have her own bed. Right now we're staying in a small apartment, Janae explained. It's not very big, but Mrs. Hartwell, who I work for, she's helping us look for a bigger place. Somewhere with a bedroom just for you, where you can put up all your drawings and your toys. Is Mrs. Hartwell the lady you saved? Grandma told me. She said you were a hero. Janae glanced at her mother, who smiled. I told her the truth, that her mama did something very brave and very right. When they reached the apartment building, Destiny insisted on climbing the stairs herself, holding Janae's hand. 3 floors, she counted. 1, 2, 3. That's a lot of stairs, Mama. It is. But you're strong. You can do it. They reached the door and Janae unlocked it, her heart pounding. This was it. Her daughter, stepping into their home for the first time. It wasn't much, this small studio with its Murphy bed and tiny kitchen. But it was theirs. Vivian had decorated while they were at court. There were balloons tied to the couch, a Welcome Home Destiny banner hung across the wall, and on the small table, a chocolate cake with pink frosting. Surprise, Vivian said, stepping out from the kitchenette. Welcome home, Destiny. I'm Vivian. I've heard so much about you. Destiny hid behind Janae's legs, suddenly shy. But then she peeked out. You're really pretty. And you're really rich. Mama said you're really rich. Vivian laughed. Well, I have money, yes. But your mama is the one who's really rich. She has you. And that's better than all the money in the world. Destiny considered this, then nodded seriously. That's true. Mama's the best. The afternoon passed in a blur of joy and adjustment. Destiny explored every inch of the small apartment, claimed the couch as her special spot, insisted on helping make lunch even though she mostly just got in the way. She showed Janae every drawing in the box her grandmother had brought, narrating each one in elaborate detail. This one is you and me at the park. See, that's a swing. And this one is us at the zoo. I really want to go to the zoo, Mama. Can we go to the zoo? And this one is our house. I didn't know what our house looked like, so I just made it purple, because purple is my favorite color. Is purple your favorite color too? Purple is absolutely my favorite color, Janae said, pulling her daughter into her lap. Everything you've made is perfect. I'm going to put them all up on the walls so I can see them every day. As evening approached, Janae's mother prepared to leave. She pulled Janae aside while Destiny was showing Vivian her stuffed animal collection. You call me every day, you hear? Let me know how she's adjusting. If you need anything at all, you call. I will, Mama. Thank you. For everything. For never giving up on me. You're my baby. I'll never give up on you. Her mother hugged her tight. You did good, Janae. You did real good. After her mother left, Janae gave Destiny a bath in the tiny bathroom. The little girl splashing and playing like bath time was the greatest adventure in the world. She helped her into pajamas, the same pink ones she'd been wearing in the last photo Janae had seen. They were getting too small now, Janae realized. Her daughter was growing up, and she'd missed so much. But she wouldn't miss anymore. They all squeezed onto the couch together, Destiny in the middle, Janae on one side, and Vivian on the other. Destiny had picked out 3 books she wanted read to her, and Janae made it through 2 before her voice started to crack with emotion. Why are you crying, Mama? Destiny asked, concerned. Because I'm happy, baby. Because I have you back and I'm just so happy. I'm happy too. Destiny yawned, snuggling into Janae's side. Are you going to leave again? Are you going to go away? No, baby. I'm right here. I'm staying right here. Forever. Forever and ever. I promise. Okay. Destiny's eyes were drooping. I love you, Mama. I love you too, sweetheart. more than anything in the whole wide world. Within minutes, Destiny was asleep, her breathing deep and even, her hand curled around Janae's shirt like she was afraid to let go even in sleep. Janae sat there, not moving, just holding her daughter and marveling that this was real, that she was here, that they'd actually made it. Vivian stood quietly. I'm going to give you two some space. I'll stay in a hotel tonight. You don't have to do that. I want to. This is your first night together in 3 years. You should have privacy, time to just be mother and daughter without someone else in the way. You're not in the way, Vivian. You're family now. Vivian's eyes filled with tears. That means more than you know, but I'll still give you tonight. I'll come back tomorrow and we'll figure out the housing situation, start looking for a bigger place. But tonight is just for you and Destiny. After Vivian left, Janae carefully moved Destiny to the Murphy bed, tucking her in with her elephant and all her favorite things. She lay down beside her, watching her sleep, still unable to quite believe this was happening. Her phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Saw the news. Congratulations. You deserve every bit of happiness. Another from Maria. So happy for you. That little girl is lucky to have you. One from Officer Walsh. You did it, Janae. You really did it. Proud of you. And one from Rebecca. Enjoy your daughter. You earned this moment. Call me tomorrow and we'll discuss next steps. But the text that made her cry again was from Claire Martinez at the Globe. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning. And I can't wait to see what you do next. Janae set her phone down and looked at Destiny, at this miracle sleeping beside her. She thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. The mistakes and the consequences, the long, slow climb back to redemption, the choice she'd made in that bedroom to help someone who needed her even when it threatened everything she'd been working toward. She'd lost so much in her life. Her freedom, her daughter, years she'd never get back. But she'd gained something too. Strength she hadn't known she possessed. The knowledge that she could survive anything. The understanding that doing the right thing, even when it cost her everything, was worth it. And she'd gained Vivian. A friend who saw her, really saw her, not as a maid or a criminal or someone to be pitied, but as an equal, as someone worth standing beside. Destiny stirred in her sleep, mumbling something about butterflies. Janae stroked her hair, soft and warm under her fingers. I've got you now, she whispered. And I'm never letting go. Outside, the city continued its endless motion. Somewhere, Preston Hartwell was preparing for his trial, his empire crumbling around him. Somewhere, reporters were writing stories, lawyers were building cases, people were taking sides. But in this small apartment in Dorchester, in this moment, none of that mattered. All that mattered was this. A mother and daughter, reunited at last. A broken family made whole. A promise kept. Janae closed her eyes, Destiny warm and solid beside her. And for the first time in 3 years, she slept without nightmares. She slept like someone who'd finally come home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The adjustment period, the media attention that wouldn't disappear overnight, Preston's trial where she and Vivian would have to testify, the ongoing work of rebuilding her life and being the mother Destiny deserved. But tonight, she had this. She had everything. And it was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything she'd ever wanted. 3 months later, winter had settled over Boston like a blanket. The first snow of December fell softly outside the windows of the 2-bedroom apartment in Jamaica Plain that Vivian had helped Janae secure. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm and safe, and most importantly, it had a bedroom just for Destiny, painted purple at her insistence, with her drawings covering every available wall. Janae stood in the kitchen, making hot chocolate, while Destiny sat at the table working on her homework. Second-grade math, addition and subtraction that Destiny attacked with the same fierce determination she applied to everything. She was thriving. Her teacher said she was one of the brightest students in class, always raising her hand, always eager to learn. The adjustment hadn't been seamless. There had been hard nights when Destiny woke up crying, afraid her mama had disappeared again. There had been moments of testing, when Destiny pushed boundaries just to see if Janae would stay. There had been the inevitable questions about why Mama had gone away, questions Janae answered as honestly as she could for a 6-year-old's understanding. But slowly, day by day, they'd built something new. A routine, a rhythm, a life together that felt solid and real. The apartment door opened, and Vivian walked in, stamping snow off her boots, carrying bags from the grocery store. She'd kept her promise about staying close, about being part of their lives. She'd moved into an apartment 2 floors up, close enough to help but far enough to give them space. "It's really coming down out there," Vivian said, setting the bags on the counter. "I got everything for dinner. And Destiny, I found those colored pencils you wanted. The fancy ones with all the colors." Destiny's head popped up. "The ones with 64 colors? Really? Really? They're in the bag with the bow on it." Destiny abandoned her homework immediately, tearing into the bag with squeals of delight. She pulled out the pencil set and hugged it to her chest. "Thank you, Aunt Viv. These are the best." Aunt Viv. It had started about a month ago, Destiny's own decision. "She's not really my aunt," she'd said seriously to Janae, "but she feels like family. Can I call her Aunt Viv?" And Vivian had cried when she'd heard it. This child who barely knew her claiming her as family. Now, Vivian helped put away groceries while Janae finished the hot chocolate. They moved around each other easily, comfortable in the shared space, in the life they'd built together. "Preston's trial starts tomorrow," Vivian said quietly, her back to Destiny so the little girl couldn't see her expression. Rebecca called. "They want both of us there for the opening statements." Janae had known this was coming. For 3 months, the legal machinery had been grinding forward. Preston had been hit with multiple charges including conspiracy to commit false imprisonment, fraud, attempted assault, and elder abuse after investigators discovered he'd been planning to do to his elderly mother what he'd tried to do to Vivian. The evidence was overwhelming. Peterman's testimony, the documents, the medical records, all of it painting a picture of a man who saw people as obstacles to money and power. But that didn't make it easier to face him again. "How are you feeling about it?" Janae asked. "Terrified. Ready." Both at the same time. Vivian leaned against the counter. "Part of me can't believe it's really happening. That he's actually going to face consequences. Men like Preston don't usually face consequences. This time he will. The DA has him cold." Rebecca said they're expecting a guilty verdict on at least some of the charges. "I know. I just keep thinking about having to sit in that courtroom, having to see him, having to relive it all. But then I remember why we're doing this. So he can't do it to anyone else. So his next wife, if there ever is one, doesn't end up where I was." Destiny looked up from her new pencils. "Are you talking about the bad man? The one who tried to hurt you?" Vivian and Janae exchanged glances. They tried to shield Destiny from the details, but she was a smart kid. She'd picked up pieces from overheard conversations, from news coverage she'd glimpsed before they could change the channel. "Yes, sweetheart," Vivian said, crouching down to Destiny's level. "We're talking about him. But he can't hurt anyone anymore. He's going to answer for what he did." "Good," Destiny said firmly. "Because you're nice and pretty and you're my mama's best friend. Nobody should hurt you." "Thank you, honey. That means a lot." That evening, after Destiny was in bed, Janae and Vivian sat in the living room with mugs of tea, watching the snow fall outside. The apartment was quiet except for the radiator hissing and the occasional sound of Destiny shifting in her sleep. "Can I tell you something?" Vivian said. "Something I've been thinking about. Always. I've been looking at graduate programs. Social work, specifically. Programs that focus on domestic violence intervention and advocacy." Janae turned to look at her. "Really? I've been thinking about what I want to do with my life now that I'm free from Preston. I have money. I have time. I have freedom. And I keep thinking about how many women are where I was. Trapped, isolated, not knowing how to get out. What if I could help them? What if I could use my experience, my resources, to make a difference?" "You'd be amazing at that." "You think so? I know so. You understand what they're going through. You've lived it. And you have the courage to talk about it, to make it real for people who've never experienced it. That's powerful, Vivian. That could change lives." Vivian smiled, but there was uncertainty in it. "I'm scared I'm not smart enough. I barely finished college. I spent my 20s being a trophy wife. What if I can't handle graduate-level work? Are you kidding? You rebuilt your entire life from scratch in 3 months. You stood up to one of the most powerful men in Boston. You testified in front of cameras and reporters and never wavered from the truth. If you can do all that, you can handle some graduate courses. You really believe in me, don't you? The way you believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. That's what we do. We hold each other up." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the snow accumulate on the windowsill. "I've been thinking about something too," Janae said. "Angela Brooks, The social worker who did my home evaluation? She called me last week. Said she's looking for someone to join her team, someone who understands the system from the inside, someone who's been through it and come out the other side. She asked if I'd be interested in training to become a caseworker. Janae, that's incredible. Are you going to do it? I don't know. It would mean going back to school, getting certified. It would be hard, juggling that with destiny and everything else. But Angela said she'd work with my schedule, help me figure it out. And I keep thinking about how many parents are where I was. Desperate, scared, not knowing how to navigate the system. If I could help them, if I could be for them what Angela was for me, then you should do it. Absolutely, you should do it. It feels like a lot. Like maybe I'm reaching too far. Or maybe you're finally reaching as far as you're capable of. Which is pretty damn far, Janae. Look at what you've already done. Look at where you were a year ago versus where you are now. If anyone can handle this, it's you. Janae felt tears prick her eyes. How did I get so lucky? Finding you, I mean. Of all the houses I could have worked at, all the people I could have met, somehow I found you. I think we found each other. At exactly the moment we both needed it most. Vivian reached over and took her hand. You know what tomorrow is, right? Beyond the trial? What? It's been exactly 3 months since Judge Morrison gave you custody. 3 months of you and Destiny building your life together. That's worth celebrating. The trial doesn't feel like much of a celebration. No, but what comes after does. After we testify, after we do what needs to be done, we're taking Destiny to that fancy restaurant she's been begging to go to. The one with the mac and cheese she saw on TV. And we're going to toast to new beginnings. To survival. To the family we've built, the 3 of us. The 3 of us, Janae repeated, and the words felt right. Felt true. They weren't a traditional family, weren't related by blood or law, but they were bound by something stronger. Choice. Loyalty. Love. The next morning, they dressed carefully for court. Janae in a navy suit Vivian had bought her, professional and confident. Vivian in a gray dress, elegant but understated. They left Destiny with Janae's mother, who'd flown up from Atlanta for the trial, and headed to the courthouse together. The media presence was even bigger than it had been for the preliminary hearings. Preston Hartwell's trial had become a national story, a symbol of wealth, power, abuse, and the women who'd fought back. Supporters lined the courthouse steps, holding signs. Justice for Vivian. Believe survivors. Lock him up. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Preston sat at the defense table with his team of expensive lawyers, looking thinner than Janae remembered, his face haggard. When Vivian walked in, his eyes found her immediately, and something flickered across his expression. Rage, yes, but also something that might have been regret. Too late for regret now. The trial lasted 4 days. Janae and Vivian both testified, walking the jury through everything that had happened. Peterman testified, his voice monotone as he described Preston's instructions, the timeline they'd followed, the plan to have Vivian committed. Medical experts testified about the drugs that had been used, their effects, how they would have made Vivian appear confused and unstable. Preston's lawyers tried their best. They brought in character witnesses who testified to Preston's generosity, his philanthropy, his love for his wife. They suggested Vivian had misunderstood his intentions, that he'd been genuinely concerned for her welfare. They painted Janae as an opportunist who'd manipulated the situation for personal gain. But the evidence was too strong. The timeline too clear. The intent too obvious. On the 4th day, the jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted. Preston's face went white, then red, then white again. His lawyers immediately began talking about appeals, but everyone knew it was over. He was looking at 10 to 15 years minimum, and at 52, that might as well be a lifetime. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked at Vivian one last time. She stared back, her face calm, her eyes clear. She didn't flinch, didn't look away. She'd stopped being afraid of him somewhere along the way, Janae realized. She'd taken back the power he'd stolen. Outside, they were mobbed by reporters and supporters. Claire Martinez was there, documenting everything. Officer Walsh congratulated them with fierce hugs. Rebecca Chun looked satisfied, professional victory mixed with genuine joy for her clients. But all Janae could think about was getting home to Destiny. To their real life, away from cameras and courtrooms and the man who'd tried to destroy them. They took a cab back to Jamaica Plain, Back to the apartment where Janae's mother had dinner waiting and Destiny was bouncing with excitement about the fancy restaurant they'd promised her. Did you win, Mama? Did you beat the bad man? We won, baby. Justice won. Good. Now can we go get mac and cheese? They went to the restaurant, the four of them. Janae, Destiny, Vivian, and Janae's mother. They ordered too much food and laughed too loud, and let Destiny have dessert even though she hadn't finished her dinner. They toasted with sparkling cider, Destiny giggling as the bubbles tickled her nose. To new beginnings, Vivian said, raising her glass. To family, Janae's mother added. To being brave, Janae said. To mac and cheese, Destiny shouted, making them all laugh. Later that night, after Destiny was asleep and Janae's mother had gone to her hotel and Vivian had headed upstairs to her own apartment, Janae stood in Destiny's doorway watching her daughter sleep. The purple walls glowed softly in the nightlight's gleam, covered in drawings of butterflies and rainbows and stick figure families holding hands. Her phone buzzed. A message from Angela Brooks. Saw the verdict. Justice served. When can you start training? We need good people like you. Another from Rebecca. Congratulations. You both earned this. And Janae, I meant what I said about law school. If you ever want to go that route, I'll help you. You'd make an incredible lawyer. One from Claire. The story's not over. I'd like to do a follow-up in 6 months. Document where you both are, how you've rebuilt. Show people that recovery is possible. Interested. And one from Vivian, even though she'd just left. Thank you for letting me be part of your family. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for everything. I love you both. Janae typed back. We love you too. See you tomorrow for breakfast? Wouldn't miss it. Janae set her phone down and walked to the window. Snow was still falling, blanketing the city in white. Somewhere out there, other women were trapped like Vivian had been. Other mothers were separated from their children like Janae had been. Other people were drowning, invisible, desperate for someone to see them. But tomorrow, Janae would start figuring out how to help them. Tomorrow, she'd take the first steps toward becoming a caseworker, toward using her story to make a difference. Tomorrow, Vivian would start researching graduate programs, toward building a new purpose from the ashes of her old life. Tomorrow, they'd keep building this new life they'd found. Together. But tonight, Janae just stood there, grateful. Grateful for second chances. Grateful for the choice she'd made that afternoon 3 months ago when she'd walked into that bedroom and said, "Don't scream." Grateful for the friend she'd found, the daughter she'd reclaimed, the woman she'd become. She thought about that moment sometimes. The split second when she could have turned around, could have walked away, could have chosen safety over courage. What would have happened if she had? Vivian would be locked away somewhere, drugged and helpless. Preston would have won. And Janae would still be invisible, still silent, still the woman who'd learned to survive by never making waves. But she hadn't walked away. She'd stepped forward. She'd spoken up. She'd chosen courage over fear, compassion over self-preservation. And that choice had changed everything. It had saved Vivian's life. It had revealed Janae's strength. It had brought them together, two women from different worlds who'd found in each other something neither had known they were missing. A sister, a friend, a witness to their survival. The snow kept falling, soft and silent, covering the world and possibility. Inside, Destiny mumbled something in her sleep, then smiled, safe and warm and loved. And Janae smiled too, because she was finally home. Not just in this apartment, not just in this city, but in herself. In the person she'd fought so hard to become. A woman who didn't look away. A woman who stood up. A woman who saved someone's life, and in doing so, saved her own. A woman who was finally, beautifully, impossibly free. She walked to Destiny's bed and kissed her daughter's forehead. I love you, baby girl. Sweet dreams. Then she went to her own room, climbed into her own bed, and for the first time in as long as she could remember, she didn't just survive the day. She lived it. Fully, completely, joyfully lived it. And tomorrow, she'd do it again. And the day after that. And every day after that, for the rest of her life. Because she'd learned the most important lesson of all. That courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was the choice to act despite it. That redemption wasn't a destination. It was a daily practice. That family wasn't just blood. It was the people who saw you at your worst and chose to stand beside you anyway. And that sometimes, the most powerful thing you could do was simply refuse to be invisible. To say, I'm here. I matter. I see you. And mean it. With everything you had. even when it cost you. Especially when it cost you. Because that's what love looked like. That's what strength looked like. That's what freedom looked like. And Janae Washington, former maid, former inmate, former woman who'd almost given up, was finally, gloriously free. As the snow fell softly outside her window, Janae closed her eyes and slept the sleep of the victorious, the redeemed, the found. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new mountains to climb, new battles to fight. But tonight, she had everything she needed. Love, family, purpose, hope, and the unshakable knowledge that she'd stood at the crossroads and chosen the right path. Not the easy path, the right one. And that made all the difference. My beautiful family and friends, this story shows that sometimes the most powerful act is simply refusing to look away when someone needs help, and that in saving others, we often save ourselves. Janae and Vivian's journey from strangers to family proves that redemption is always possible, that second chances are worth fighting for, and that the bonds we choose can be stronger than the ones we're born with. What's a moment in your life when you chose courage over fear? How did that choice change your path? Share your story in the comments below, because your courage might inspire someone else to take that step.
Thank you so much for watching this story all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this one, then you'll absolutely love the next. It's even crazier and more captivating than you can imagine. So go ahead and click the video showing right here on your screen, and I'll see you in the next story.